Throws it downfield, wide open. Wilson to grab with a 30, touchdown.
Well, in Pullman, it has been a beautiful fall day and late afternoon. The temperature very mild and the crowd excited. Loyal Washington State fans here to cheer on their team, wearing those uniforms for the very first time, uniforms that were chosen by Washington State fans in online voting. And these all-gray Washington State Cougars hoping to start to restore the pride in this great football program as they take on a top 10 team today in Stanford. Glenn Parker, Ted Robinson, Akbar Baja-Biamila, welcome to college football on Versus. And of course, Stanford hasn't lost a game in over a year, Glenn. Now they come to town, it's like a traveling rock show. Everybody comes out to see the big guy, and can we knock the big guy, Andrew Luck, off?
Absolutely. The fans want to come out. They want to see an upset. And let's face it, Andrew Luck is that guy. When you put up the numbers that he has, you look at just last week alone, 370 yards and a very quiet 370. Like you mentioned, we were talking, did he really throw that much? I don't remember it.
It didn't feel that way last week, yet David Shaw, the Stanford coach, said best game of Andrew Luck's college career was the one last Saturday on Versus. But of course, Stanford isn't where they are without defense, as Akbar Baja-Biamila is very quick to tell us. Akbar?
Well, that's because Stanford's 3-4 defense is really tough, and they pride themselves on playing assignment sound football and execution. And with that, Washington State comes in with the 7th-ranked offense in the country, averaging 350 yards a game. If they're going to be successful, Stanford's defense has to get pressure on the quarterback, and that's going to be up to Chase Thomas.
And then they'll be going at Washington State starting quarterback Jeff Toole, who returns. The Cougars carrying flags, also something new, out to the roars of their fans. But Andrew Luck, who played his first college game on this field in Pullman, brings the number 7 Cardinal back. Kickoff coming up on Versus. Stanford and Washington State. Stanford trying to already post its 4th Pac-12 win of the season. And that Washington State number is notable because the last 3 years total, Paul Wolf's Cougars had won 5 games total. He inherited this program when it was in an absolute depth, only 72 scholarships, but 3 wins already this year, a near miss last week at UCLA.
And you're seeing a very different team than you saw when he took over. You're seeing a team that plays hard for 4 quarters, that believes in what he's teaching.
All right, Stanford won the toss and chose to receive the ball to start things. The Stanford will run this kick back from just shy of the 10-yard line. And running it out just across the 30-yard line is Ty Montgomery, freshman wide receiver, and Andrew Luck brings the Stanford Cardinal onto the field. Now, this is not a big stadium in terms of numbers, but it is loud. That was something Stanford worked on this week, was preparing for the noise.
Yeah, having played here myself, you sit in a little bit of a bowl. The noise stays in.
Stephon Taylor will be the running back to start things behind Luck. That heavy setup, the tight end oriented Stanford offense. Bunched to the right. Start position 33, and Taylor is dropped right away. Big stick for Washington State and a loss of 2. Here's the Discover starting lineups for the Stanford offensive line, featuring a brilliant left tackle in Jonathan Martin.
Jonathan Martin, very highly rated, got great feet. He's a big-time prospect out there. Of course, Ryan Hewitt, a tight end playing fullback. You'll see a lot of him today as well.
Anthony Lorenzi made the big Washington State hit. 2nd and 12. Luck standing in. Now Lowe's deep. He's got him in. A great reaction to the ball. And Washington State intercepts. DeMonte Horton picks Luck, who had Jamal Rashad Patterson behind the secondary.
A lot of air under the ball. Allowed DeMonte Horton to close ground. It appeared that he had him open, but just a little bit too much air. Great recovery by DeMonte Horton to come underneath that ball.
Well, it looked like Stanford had a big play on just the second snap of the game. But Andrew Luck winds up throwing just his third interception of the season. DeMonte Horton giving it to Washington State. And the Cougars have Jeff Toole returning to the starting lineup. First snap, and Stanford comes right at him. And they can't finish. And Toole is able to escape and get back near the line of scrimmage. Well, Jeff Toole broke his left clavicle. He threw just 2 passes in the first week of the year. And so if you're the opposing defense, you want to reintroduce him to the physical nature of the game?
Absolutely. Get into him and get into his head. Stanford
knows Jeff Toole well. He's from Fresno area in California, and he had a big game at Stanford Stadium last year when the Cougars, you saw the score a moment ago, they had a fourth quarter rally to make that game competitive. Stanford brings 5. Toole steps up, escapes, and he got out. He did not turn to try to get those. Well, actually, he did. He got enough to get a first down. He's marked at the 40-yard line.
And this is one of the aspects of the game that Jeff Toole brings to you that Marshall Lobestall did not have, and it's his mobility and the way he can get running a little faster. And that's something that they have missed in the last few weeks without him running the offense.
Yeah, Jeff, Paul Wolf told us that packages for the 2 quarterbacks are very similar.
Yes.
But that, you said, the mobility was the one thing that might allow them to do a few things with Toole. Running out of the shotgun, very common now in football, growing each year. And Ricky Galvin is a second-year player in the Washington State program from Berkeley, California. As the carries, we see the offensive line in our Discover starting lineup.
The bell cow up on that offensive line, B.J. Guerra, big, strong kid. The coaches love him. Just say he's a physical force. And, of course, Marquise Wilson, the sophomore wide receiver, putting up big numbers for the Cougars.
And he's the one to watch. 31 catches this year. He averages over 20 a catch. And had a big one 2 weeks ago to help Washington State win at Colorado.
You can see they've taken the running back, Galvin, and they've split him out into the slot as a receiver.
So they go empty, and there's a catch. Nope, not a catch. Incomplete to Wilson, short of a first. We had a quick hit off the left side as we look now to Discover starting lineups and this Stanford defense.
And automatically up front, you talk Ben Gardner, a big physical, active end that'll get pressure. And, of course, Chase Thomas, the linebacker, will be very active. He'll show up all over the film today.
And then secondary senior Johnson Batamosi. Stanford with 5 defensive backs on the field now. Remember, Stanford missing their top defender, inside linebacker Shane Scove out for the year. Corner blitz. And Toole is taken down. It took the second man again to get him.
This is where you see a little rust with Jeff Toole. He's got to understand at 3rd and long, it's a pressure down. They bring 2 weak, only 1 running back to take the 2. He has to understand that. That's probably a product of him not having been in. Even though he got the mental reps, it's not the same as seeing it face to face.
Harold Bernard hadn't played much. He got in there and he made that corner blitz that started the play. It ends up in the second Stanford sack in Washington State after the interception. Able to get past 1 first down. Fair catch on the punt by Drew Terrell. So Stanford will come back and start at their 24-yard line. College football on Versus is brought to you by the new Capital One Cash Card for the people who want 50% more cash. And by Foster's, Australian for beer. Campus in Pullman, Washington. We're in southeastern Washington State. It's actually a border town. Borders on Moscow, Idaho. And the University of Idaho is 7 miles from Washington State University. Of course, our crew, I think, Glenn, you guys were staying in Montana, weren't you?
Just about. We're quite a ways away.
Big geography trip this week. Now here's Andrew Luck in Stanford. Starting at second possession, Stephon Taylor. Oh, and he came awfully close. Awfully close. Deion Buchanan saving tackle for Washington State as Taylor knocks that out for 15.
Well, you know, you run power and you bring your backside guard, big David DeCastro around. You get a hat on a hat, open up some creases. And because you're running power, you get down blocks with pulls that opens up big gashes and you get big holes for big yards.
So Stanford punching it out to their 39. This is what they've done so well to teams in the last few years as they grind you.
I believe it was Coach Chris Ball said they bleed you.
Yes, exactly. Good phrase there. This time Washington State stands tall and stops Taylor off the right side. Stephon Taylor with a shortened game.
Of course, Pep Hamilton, the offensive coordinator for Stanford, told us when we were speaking to him, what they want to do is turn it into a brawl, one in which you don't want to keep taking the shots. And you'll do something you don't want to do, and that's how they're going to get you.
Now, Taylor had a huge game last year against Washington State. He carried 27 times for 142. So Stanford just pound away again. They got 3 on the first down. Ertz, the tight end, motions. Luck looks that way, swings it back. And Luck will get back to the line of scrimmage. That will not be a sack. And that's notable because it's something Luck rarely, not only does he rarely get sacked, he rarely gets hit.
Well, what he did a good job is he kept his eyes downfield and moved forward as he was looking and was able to get a yard or two. But really credit the secondary of Washington State with that play. They went up, they got man, they got in the face of those big tight ends and stopped them from using their body to get open.
So no gain on that play. And it's 3rd down and 7 for Stanford. A pistol look here. Corner blitz. Taylor stands in and picks it up beautifully. Well, there's the value of a running back that rarely gets pointed out. But the Stanford people will tell you that for a small guy, Stephon Taylor is outstanding in pass protection.
He will put his nose right in there. Now Whalen in this case, Griff Whalen, got open in just a regular drag route, but he was able to just get enough separation because of where the official was standing, kind of a pick, and got himself out there. But you're absolutely right. Overlooked so often with running backs is their ability to put their nose in there and pass block.
That's Stephon Taylor. He made that play. He gave Luck the time to hit Whalen. Now Luck going for the big ball, going for Owusu. Just beyond it. And that's the home run threat for Stanford. Chris Owusu, guarded by Tyree Toomer.
Well, if you take a look back at that last play before, you take a look at Taylor step forward. He'll be right behind Andrew Luck here. Just right here, he's just going to step up. Look at him, put his nose, bam, get in there, run his feet, hands inside. That allows that ball to get out of Luck's hand in rhythm, as opposed to having to yank it down and go again.
It's funny, as Stanford talks so much about how good he is at that, and we saw last week Colorado's small running back, Rodney Stewart, who could not handle that part of the game. Stanford took advantage. Now Taylor back to running. Short game.
One of the things you saw was that he stepped up. He didn't wait to catch. Too often running backs will wait, get caught, and they get run right over.
Receiving the blitz.
That's right. You got to get out there and get your nose in there early. Well, Washington State's put themselves in a great position here. 3rd and long. Another chance to maybe see if they can't confuse Andrew Luck and let their secondary play bump man nice up in their face.
Well, there you saw the numbers, how good Taylor has been at running the ball. We'll see how Stanford goes here on 3rd and 7. They've been a good 3rd down team this year, almost 50%, as you would expect. Cougars bring extra people late, but Luck has time. Oh, and Owusu is crushed.
I hope that he's all right. At the top of your screen, you'll see him come on just this little post route, get separation, safety. And here it comes at you in real speed. You'll hear this.
And the hit delivered by Casey Locker, familiar name. Cousin of Jake Locker. And that appeared to be a good hit.
It looks clean. It looked like it was in the chest. It might have gotten up into his head with his shoulder pad, but by no means was it a dirty play.
And Locker getting congratulations on his sideline, while Stanford's medics tend to. Chris Owusu, you saw Kobe Fleener, his teammate, tell him to stay down. He let the docs come out and take a look. Owusu able to walk to the sideline, but it hasn't stemmed the anger for David Shaw. He was spent most of that time out. And the ears of the officials, the referees. He was not happy.
And very upset with the hit, thinking that he launched himself and maybe hit an unprotected player or went for his head.
David Green to punt here for Stanford. Something he hasn't had to do very much this year. Henry Eady is the returner. Will let this one hit, and Stanford is there to cover. And down it at the 1. Ty Montgomery. So Washington State pinned deep in their territory on the 47-yard punt. What a roller coaster 2 weeks for the Cougars.
Yeah, getting to play Colorado, getting that win and excitement, a Pac-12 win, something they haven't had a lot of around Pullman. But then the late loss to UCLA last week, in which you feel that you have a game you've won. You feel as if you're on track to really turn things around. An emotional roller coaster for Paul Wolf and his team.
Well, they scored 2 touchdowns late in that Boulder game to win, but then last week they led by 8 points in the fourth quarter at the Rose Bowl. All right, Toole goes right to the shotgun. Winston in as the running back. Quick ball to the near side to Wilson. That's going to be a catch. He'll get him a little breathing room. Wrapped up right away. Dropped by Terrence Brown. Here's Washington State's good. Looks like they're going to go no huddle.
Yeah, they want to get moving here. You look at this ball, it almost looks like it bounced off the ground. And of course, I think that's exactly what Terrence Brown was trying to argue with the officials, that ball bounced.
All right, and finally. All right, a timeout is called here by Stanford.
And I think David Shaw is saying that ball bounced.
Stanford is challenging the ruling on the field of the catch.
Well.
So there you go. Yeah, not just a timeout, but a challenge here by Stanford. Those are, well, I would imagine, gauging by what we see here, David Shaw's blood still boiling over the Owusu hit. Now you kind of pile on here with what he thinks is a missed call.
Yeah, and then let's take a look and see what we can see. From this angle, it's tough to tell. We'll have to get a better angle, but and maybe here we'll get a chance to look. Nothing there that would tell us otherwise.
This should be the view, right?
This should be it. Boy, tough to tell.
So the question, as football fans now,
that one looked like it bounced to me.
Okay,
but I'd like to see that again, because it did look like it bounced, but it's happening so fast. Maybe I'm incapable of it.
And football fans now are well aware of the fact that the ruling on the field is significant. I think is you must have conclusive video to overturn, and the ruling is a catch here.
I'm going to have to say there's not enough to overturn it, and I think they're going to keep it.
I would say that it's funny how we can see things differently. That looks to me like his hands are underneath the ball, right? That
certainly does to me. Certainly does.
For further review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. Yeah. The receiver had his hands underneath the ball. Stanford is charged their first time out of the game and is out of challenges for the remainder of the game.
Sean Hockley, as the referee, made that call, and there he explains it perfectly. In college football, you get one challenge for the game. We get conditioned to the pros having multiple challenges. Nope, here, one challenge for the game. That's gone for Stanford.
Well, Jeff Toole, he probably he's probably looking back at the throw and wondering why it wasn't better anyways. It shouldn't have even been a question. If he'd have got the ball up, he would have got some yards after the catch.
Ball just across the 5-yard line on second down for Washington State. Running inside, and Winston lost his footing on the field turf. He might have had enough room there to get a first.
Yeah, it looked like he just tripped over the chalk line, didn't it? We'll take a look here as he comes through. It's good blocking. He's got the one hole he's supposed to have, and he just loses his footing. Didn't appear to trip over anybody. That's the type of run he'll be looking at for the next 5 or 6 days, thinking what happened.
So 3rd and 3 for Washington State. Stanford brings pressure, but they beat him with an inside screen. Well done by Washington State to Marquise Wilson.
Understanding situations, understanding what the tendency of your opponent is. They know pressure coming probably from the weak side. They throw into the screen. Here it comes, pressure. You throw back into pressure with the wide receiver screen. They understood the tendency and had the right play called for the situation.
So the Cougars have moved the ball from just against their own goal line out to the 20. Toole staying in the shotgun. Oh, there he's got a man wide open on the slant, but the ball is jarred free from Carstetter, and Stanford has it. Now, what's the ruling on the field? And they're going to say, yep, possession, fumble, Stanford recovery. And now, will Paul Wolf get a chance to think about utilizing?
On the field is a completion that was subsequently fumbled and recovered by Stanford. First down.
Well, Toole does a good job of staying with pressure in his face and delivering this ball. Now, Carstetter has it, makes a football move. It looks like he is actually down unless he's losing the ball as he goes down.
That's the question. He has possession of the ball. Now the question,
and that is a fumble.
That's a ball. That ball's free, yes.
That is a fumble.
The ground did not cause that. And that's why you're seeing, well, no, hold on. Washington State is going to challenge.
The previous play is under further review. The ruling on the field was a catch and a fumble and a recovery by Stanford.
All right, so it is not Washington State's challenge. This is a Booth challenge. Booth review, more accurately. It was a 20-yard reception here.
Well, you can see he's got possession. The ball is coming out after the initial hit. Now the knee is down. The ball is clearly out. That, to me, is a fumble, unless they rule that he never really had possession of the ball, and that might be what they begin to look at.
Wow, that would be a little... I can understand if you're saying he's down, if the knee's down. And it's funny because we have the ability to get some instruction before the season starts from Terry McCauley, who's an NFL referee, and I saw Terry McCauley at an NFL game last Sunday. I actually went and said hello to him, and I said, Terry, you spent a half an hour with us, and I'm even more confused about what's a catch and what's not. Well, and he laughed, and he said, that's the biggest challenge we all are in the sport right now. We're all dealing with.
Well, it's very tough because they have the process of the catch that they have to talk about. They have all the contingencies around it. Is it possession or not? Is he down or not? But then remember that we can slow it down to its nth degree, and they have to call it in real time.
And the other thing that Terry, and I mentioned this before, but I think it's important, Terry is a real advocate of giving the officials here, for example, to give the referee, Sean Hockley, a screen on the sideline, just as the NFL does for the referee. So the field officials have a chance to see this.
Well, here's the ball. Now, this appears to me he has full possession of the ball,
and the ball is out.
Yeah. So it appears there's full possession, a football-type move. The process is completed. He's hit. The ball comes out and he's not down. That's what it appears to me.
So again, the call here is a fumble and a recovery by Stanford. This is an official review. It was not a challenge by Washington State. And here comes the decision.
During the process of completing the catch, the ball continued to remain loose in the receiver's hands. It then hit the ground, making it an incomplete pass. It was second down and 10 at the 20-yard line.
And I will be the first person to say, I have no clue how they arrived at that decision. None.
Neither do I.
It's a break for Washington State. Obviously, how they decided that is an incomplete pass, I have no idea.
Obviously, what we talked about, Dad, is that he never had control of the ball. It certainly looked like he had full control of the ball to us, but...
That's why I don't understand how they could come up with that decision. But Washington State will gladly take it.
Now they have to realize they're sitting at second and long.
Can I reconfirm to you that I'm even more confused about what's a catch?
If you see McCauley again, talk to him.
All right, so Washington State back to the 20 on second down. And here's where Stanford has been so strong this year. And Akbar was great about pointing this out in our open, but Stanford holding teams to less than 62 yards a game on the ground this year. There's a loss of one.
This is an area that, when you look at 3rd and 11, you would think pressure, but because of where you are on the field, you can sit back a little bit and make them compete it underneath you.
Look at Stanford now spreading wide and only rushing 3. Toole throws, and Stanford is there all over the underneath receivers, and they swarm on Bobby Ratliff. 6-yard gain, and that'll leave Washington State 4th down.
And you look at what their defense does. That number of 61 is what gives you all the other numbers. Some people might think, well, 302 yards a game is a lot. Well, remember that teams are going to throw on you because you're winning a lot of these games. Stanford's well ahead. Because they've stopped the run, teams are forced to pass because they're down.
Drew Terrell to receive the punt from Dan Wagner. Terrell's going to have a chance to run this. Going to make a little tougher catch. And the Cougars cover it nicely. He could not turn the corner, and Anthony Carpenter drops Terrell. Luck getting ready to come back out in a scoreless game.
.com.
The region in eastern Washington State that you're seeing, where we are in Pullman, is known locally as the Palouse. And it's really friendly country. People here, and Glenn, you've been talking about it since we got here. These people love their school.
A fanatical fan base and great people around here.
It's funny because the team has put, everybody's wearing red, which is also Stanford's color in the stands. The team's put the red away. They've got gray on.
Yeah, they do. They look somewhat like Harry Truman's old Plymouth, don't they? That color is like a dove gray.
Andrew Luck, who started to call his own plays in recent weeks in some parts of games, changing up here. And the inside give to Taylor.
And Andrew Luck right now only 1 for 4 with 8 yards and an interception. So they're certainly not having the game he's used to starting out with.
All right, 6 yards here. Now Stanford trying to pick up the tempo as well.
This is how you get your quarterback and your team into a rhythm. If things aren't going right, hey, let's pick it up. We've got our personnel on the field. Let's fool it.
Washington State had an injured defensive lineman there. Brandon Rankin barely got off the field. Cougars already a little thin on the D-line. Missing a starter, Menard Williams, today due to injury. Luck hits the cross. Well, another player, David Shaw, the Stanford coach, said not only did Andrew Luck play the best game of his Stanford career last week, but so did Griff Whalen, a former walk-on, who's Andrew Luck's roommate.
Yeah, and Griff, he likes to talk about how he watches Wes Welker and how the coaches put him in a lot of similar situations. You saw it on the drag route there.
22 yards, and now Stanford at the Washington State 44. Really, Glenn, as football's progressing, I mean, that's almost becoming commonplace, isn't it now, running out of the shotgun?
Absolutely it is. And because you can do all of the same things from a shotgun for the most part that you do with under center, you use it more because it confuses defenses.
Taylor, 6 carries, 27 yards. Luck changing.
Washington State showed blitz. Safety came over, corner to the boundary, stepped to the end of the line of scrimmage. Luck saw it and now changes the play.
Now Whalen is his only wide receiver with they'll run. The power, Taylor. Taylor the power. Taylor the speed. And Stephon Taylor is to the 12-yard line.
All right, so what happens is they understand that right out here, you've got a safety. So he calls power like that, and there's only a single safety up top when this play gets going.
Stanford hurrying up, throwing to Ertz, the tight end. And he's down to the 7.
Andrew Luck sees the safety roll to his right with a corner coming under. So he audibles to the power going left, knowing that Stephon Taylor breaks through. He's got one man to beat to get the 40, 50-yard run.
Stanford changing personnel. They will huddle. Well, they don't huddle. They sort of just group. Now come up. So both teams have been trying to push the tempo in the first quarter.
Get the rhythm going. Get the rhythm going.
And here's the big back, Jeremy Stewart.
Another big play by DeMonte Horton.
Yes.
Another big play defensively. Kept his body right on Fleener, did a good job, and when the ball was delivered, stripped it with his left hand.
So Stanford showed a run. There's a run setup, and they tried to run that play action. And what did Paul Wolf tell us about Stanford in play action?
Andrew Luck is about 96% completion rate. That when they studied him, and it was 96% in play action, his completion percentage.
Well, Stanford has been dominant. They have scored on every red zone trip this year. And all but 5 of them touchdowns. Rick slant. Whalen at Washington State. Good defensive pounce. They first man stopped him, and then you see 3-4 gray shirts for the finish.
Defensive coordinator Chris Ball told us that we're better than they think we are. A great job, a little crossing route, but no one falls for it. They fly to the ball, they close distance, and they force a field goal.
Washington State is doing an excellent job as well as really playing that crossing route. And usually that's going to be the check route. Whenever you have man-to-man defense, the quarterback is automatically going to try to pick off that man-to-man with the crossing routes.
Absolutely, Akbar, and Andrew Luck sees it.
All right, Stanford converts points. 23-yard field goal, Jordan Williamson. But Paul Wolf happy that his team held Stanford from the end zone. David Shaw, you see a little sterner look on his face this first quarter. Been a few hurdles for Stanford, and at least for the moment, he's lost their big play receiver, Chris Owusu, who has not returned to the game yet after being jarred. He is standing on the sideline, Owusu on the Stanford sideline.
Matter of fact, talking with one of the coaches, I believe right now.
Owusu does not have his helmet in his hand. Stanford will be on defense right here, but the Washington State run back, and the Cougars get that ball out almost to the 30-yard line as Marcus Mason on the run back. The NHL on Versus continues Monday night. Paul Stastny leads the Avalanche against Phil Kessel and the Maple Leafs. And on Tuesday, the Penguins against the Wild in St. Paul. Hockey is here on Versus. Washington State on homecoming weekend. They've not played a lot in Pullman lately. They play one home game a year, one of their home games a year in Seattle, in the Seattle Seahawks Stadium. They're going to play that one next Saturday.
See if they come back to the no huddle. They were able to move the ball, had a fumble that wasn't a fumble.
Offense.
That took too long.
First down.
Getting out from the sideline, and Toole is kind of looking around to get those arms, those palms out. So you start right away, backed up, 1st and 15.
And these are the things that hurt a program.
Yes. And the play clocks, I think what they're worried about, Washington State looking around, that play clock's being started very quickly. Now Stanford blitzing, and again the inside screen. And this time Stanford recovers and stops it for a shorter gain.
Well, unfortunately, Big John Fullington, your left guard, getting out there, just kind of ran into Galvin and knocked him down. They had a nice gain going.
Henry Eady, the receiver on that play.
John Fullington, just a big guy trying to get down there and make a play, make a block.
3-yard gain with his 2nd down and 12 here in the final minute of the first quarter.
Penalties like that delay a game are what hurt you when you're trying to win ball games and change who you are as a program.
Run, and it's Ricky Galvin up the middle, bursting, and he's very close to a first.
I'll tell you, it's the vision of Galvin, because where he's running, he sees color and cuts back. Watch his first cut here. As he gets right to this point, he cuts behind his guard and gets north and south.
The runner's down, first down.
Really nice job of his vision. He saw what he needed to saw what was coming, made his cut, and got north and south. Looked like he took a shot at the end of the play and got a little shaken up.
Ricky Galvin played it last year as a freshman at Washington State. On his first carry of his career, he broke his arm against Oklahoma State. So he ended up missing the year and will get a redshirt opportunity out of that. Toole gets away. There's the Toole mobility, and let's see, are they going to flag anything there on Chase Thomas of Stanford, who pushed Toole right on the sideline?
Well, the fans certainly want it, but home crowds always do. But I don't know how late it really was. You take a look at Chase Thomas launches while they're both inbounds.
On Sunday, that'd be 15 yards.
Yeah.
I know that. The way the game's going.
I wouldn't be for it either way.
So a yard gain there for Toole. It'll be 2nd down.
That's the end of the first quarter.
And That'll get us to the end of the first quarter. Well, Washington State has come out and competed in the first quarter, giving the number 7-ranked Cardinal to a 3-0 lead.
Versus.
Now, Paul Wolf, who played football here, he played, in fact, for 3 different coaches in his 4 years here, including Dennis Erickson and Mike Price. He's told us that next year finally expects to have 85, the full scholarship total.
Yeah, the APR was down. They had lost scholarships. Finally feels like he's getting it turned around right now.
We'll start the second quarter with the Cougars on 2nd and 9. Tool got hit. That's a live ball, and it's caught. That should be a gain on the play.
The ball was fumbled and recovered by Washington State. 3rd down.
So that's not called a forward pass. It is called a fumble, but it was recovered by Carl Winston.
And we'll get a look at it here. Good pressure by Gardner. Knocks that ball forward. Winston heads up play. You know, going back to that, the scholarships, you know, I think so much has been made about USC and the probation and losing, and the sanctions and losing scholarships. Washington State had lost scholarships due to the APR, the graduation rate, and they're finally going to get back to a full load.
Tool, and there's Tool again doing his thing, and he gets a first down to midfield.
And I'll tell you, Blake Luters looked around after this play. He felt he came in a little late. And I'll tell you, I think the fans thought so too. He'll be right behind Tool, number 43, coming down and up. Luters gets up, he's looking for that flag. You got to be so careful nowadays with quarterbacks. You touch them, that flag's coming.
So just shy, well, actually the ball's touching midfield. So we'll say the 50-yard line for Washington State. Stanford trying to really show people, bringing extra bodies on Tool that time. Well, there was not much disguise there.
He knew they were coming. He knew they were coming. He looked for Jared Carstetter, but Jared Carstetter didn't break his route, didn't go hot. If you look, Jeff Tool immediately looks to his right, to Carstetter. But there's pressure in his face. Carstetter doesn't see it, and the sack comes.
Have you seen anything from Tool that would indicate rust?
Yeah, I think situational awareness. Not quite always understanding where things are going to be coming from, but that's a product of not having been in the game for so long.
3 Stanford sacks already. Again, they bring inside pressure. The Tool escapes. And then, boy, I'll tell you what, that looked to me like the Stanford defensive back had an awful lot. Johnson Batamosi.
Carstetter stepped out on his route, and that's why it's an incomplete.
Yeah. So they're throwing a flag down, and that's what they'll decide here. But that's what the umpire's hat went, the linesman's hat
flew to say that he had stepped out of bounds. And that's why that one linesman doesn't have a hat. They had a conference, and the flags came flying.
There is no foul for illegal touching. The runner was forced out of bounds and was the first to touch the ball inbounds. That is not a foul. Incomplete pass. 3rd down.
Okay, runner was forced out. Interesting.
Well, you take a look at the bottom, Jared Carstetter. Watch him as he stops on this route. He's going to step out of bounds right there. So this would normally be illegal touching, but they ruled that he was forced out of bounds, not that he went out willingly. I'm not so sure he was forced out.
Well, now Washington State has one more shot. They get 3rd and 15. 3 receivers left for Tool. Big pressure again. And he hits Carstetter, but a good wrap-up. There's a fumble picked up by Thomas. Michael Thomas runs it back to the Washington State 20-yard line. And if that's an incomplete pass, I might go home.
Jared Carstetter again. They're wrapping up and they're hitting him and taking the ball. Nice ISO. Catches the ball. Should be easy. Drops it. Now, that one looks more questionable than the first one did to me.
Well, the crowd there, of course, that's being shown on the big video board here at Pullman, and that's what the crowd wants. They want to see a review. But Batamosi with the big hit. Michael Thomas picks it up. Stanford trying to hurry up and snap the ball, and the officials throw the flag. question is, again, we'll wait for the announcement. Did Paul Wolf do this?
Well, he was down there talking with the one official.
If you're Paul Wolf, you might as well.
The previous play is under further review. The buzz occurred prior to Washington State's timeout.
So once again, the review comes from the booth. Well, if the previous...
The ruling on the field is a catch and a fumble recovered by Stanford.
Well, here's Carstetter on the ISO. Let's see if he ever has full control of the ball. He was switching hands. He caught it with switching hands when the hit happened and he dropped it. Does he complete the process of the catch? I'm going to leave it up to you, Ted.
No, you know how I said, I paraphrase the great late Supreme Court Justice. I know a catch when I see a catch. That's a catch. And this is now what the field officials see. Game speed.
It's a hard job they have, and we can cut it apart in slow motion a million times.
Of course.
They have to make it in real time. That one to me looks more questionable than that first one did, so I don't want to make a guess.
Jared Carstetter, a senior here, has been is really an exemplary figure for Washington State football. Jared Carstetter is one of the semifinalists for the 2011 William Campbell Trophy, which, in my words, is the academic Heisman. Jared Carstetter, a 3.6 GPA, plans to go to dental school after his football days are done.
He's been a productive receiver for them for a few years now. He's a guy that I know whenever we do a game up here, his name invariably comes up when they talk about the best of the best up here. More in the personality, more so even than in the way he plays.
It's been a little bit of a strange first half. You see the numbers for Carstetter and three big receivers, Wilson, Barton, and Carstetter. We have not seen Barton involved in the offense yet, Isaiah Barton.
Well, I'll go with what Chris Ball said about what they wanted to do and how they thought that they would be able to play this team. And right now, Andrew Luck only 4 for 8.
The ruling on the field is confirmed. The runner completed the process of the catch and then fumbled the ball. It was then recovered by Stanford. First down.
Now, if I'm Washington State, I would have every reason to feel upset given the previous review.
And Glenn, you guys got to remember, too, that what we talked about with Chris Ball, talked about playing physical against the tight ends. You see now Andrew Luck, they're in that Wildcat offense. Take a look at the physicality up front and with the secondary.
Andrew Luck at the top of your screen as a wideout.
This is Tyler Gaffney taking the Wildcat snap. Stanford has run this play. They ran it a few times against Colorado last week, and Gaffney did well with it. Gaffney is in the Stanford tradition. He's an outstanding two-sport athlete, very good outfielder on their baseball team. Meanwhile, you see him. That's a nice win for Utah today. As much struggle as they've had, that's a good win.
And Jordan Wynn being out, that is a very big win for the new Pac-12 team, Utah.
Washington, we'll get into that a little later because Stanford and Washington play next Saturday. They had a big day today. Keith Price, huge numbers. Out of the play action, hits the tight end Ertz. Dragged down out there in space. Close to a first down. Alex Hoffman-Ellis on the play for the Washington State defense.
Well, this is normal play action. Every West Coast offense in the NFL uses it. It could be called horse too hot. It could be called fox. I've seen it called a million things. You run your fullback straight at the defensive end, under him into the flat. Your linebacker can't catch up. It's good for 3 to 5 yards every time you run it.
3rd and 1. Jeremy Stewart in as the big back. And Stewart plows ahead. A fifth-year player for Stanford, Jeremy Stewart, who this week David Shaw paid an immense compliment. He said Jeremy Stewart reminds him of Zach Crockett. And David Shaw was a coach with the Oakland Raiders. And Zach Crockett was there, and he thought the best short yardage fullback in the league. That's what he said Jeremy Stewart reminds him of.
That's high praise.
Real high praise, especially I played with Zach Crockett, and one thing he was known for is high knees going through the mix of it.
This time not much. Stewart pushed it forward for about a yard. Well, we showed you the Stanford red zone success this year, and their first trip, the Cougars stopped them in goal to go, forced a field goal.
Washington State has got to have some life for the way they are hanging in right now and playing tough. Akbar, do you sense there's a growing emotional tide going for Washington State right now?
Yeah, they're growing confidence, especially defensively. You can hear the communication. They're going back and forth, really kind of getting it up front. And up front is where they really have to win the battle against the offensive line and then bring in a lot of pressure to get Andrew Luck out of his comfort level.
Stephon Taylor now the back. To the right of Luck. They run a little shovel inside. It's a great play, but Taylor is unable to get in. That last hit by Hoffman Ellis again made a nice tackle to drop Taylor at the 1.
Well, the shovel's a nice play because it's a pass, so you pull your backside guard, toss underneath. Really nice blocking up front. You can see David DeCastro, but good job by Hoffman Ellis. The wrap up, so often too many guys just try to make a hit, they don't wrap up. Hoffman Ellis wraps up, gets him down 1 yard shy of the end zone.
Now Taylor is the deep back for Stanford. Luck's got the big bodies all ready to go. And they just power it ahead. And Taylor is stopped. Washington State, which has not had a good red zone defensive year, but in this first half, they've played beyond that.
C.J. Mizell gets right in there and stands him up. That is a great play by a middle backer to bring his hips, wrap up, and finish a play.
And not only that, Glenn, the leverage that the defensive line had against the offensive line. When you talk about really stopping up an offense from running and piling up the yards against you, you have to get the underneath. So whoever has the low man wins.
4th down, Luck has to snap it quick. And there's the big man, Jeremy Stewart, to take it in for the Stanford touchdown. And Stanford flirted there with that play clock. They were right down to the end, but Luck saw it, snapped it in time, and Stanford stays perfect. They are now 9 for 9 on 4th downs.
And watch the pad level of Stanford's offensive line, the surge. The entire white line there was in the end zone.
In which they ran behind DeCastro and Fleming.
Yes,
right tackle.
Big boys.
And Fleming is a player that Paul Wolf, the Washington State coach, talked to us about yesterday. A young guy that he said going to be very good as the right tackle for Stanford. So the Cardinals get the game's first touchdown. Second quarter, 10-0. Jeremy Stewart came across the country. He came from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to go to Stanford. He was a feature back in Jim Harbaugh's first year as the Stanford coach. And over the years, injuries to Stewart, the arrival of other backs, and now Jeremy Stewart is really making his mark in his 5th year as that short yardage guy.
Yeah, showing his power, but you say came all the way from across the country, Baton Rouge. You look at Stanford's roster, kids from all over the country.
But then eventually a knee by Washington State. Ball will come out to the 20-yard line as Jeremy Stewart's touchdown has given Stanford a 10-point lead.
Beautiful rolling hills you drove by on your way to the game is managed by
David Shaw
farmers and their family.
Off to a 5-0 start as the Stanford head coach. He knows, and you got a sense this week that David Shaw realized that Stanford has not yet played any of the top-tier teams in the conference. They have not played their biggest non-conference game yet. That will be at the end of the season. By the way, look what happened. Chuck Taylor started 9-0 at Stanford. He had sneakers named after him. Isn't that pretty cool? Anyway, but Stanford is, I mean, look, they've got 4 more weeks here where they could have a tremendous November if they can take care of their business.
You're absolutely right. And as you said, big games to end out the season.
So Washington State running it ahead with Winston, of course. Now, Stanford needs to win this game, but if they do, next Saturday night's going to be kind of the first good one of the year in the Pac-12 North. Washington, which has rolled up huge numbers, and Keith Price, their quarterback, had a massive day today. Washington is at Stanford.
Yeah, Coach Sarkisian's done a great job up there, and Coach Holt, the defensive coordinator, they've really improved that defense. Getting better all the time.
Well, this time, Terrence Brown of Stanford was all over. They tried to run that, again, that wide receiver screen to Marquise Wilson, and Terrence Brown smothered it.
And again, the thing I like, Terrence Brown wrapping up form, tackle, fundamentals. You look at Stanford's remaining schedule here. Washington, big game. USC, certainly a rivalry game. Those two programs don't like each other, but you move down to Oregon and finally Notre Dame. A lot of tough games on the road ahead.
November 12 has been the most anticipated game of the year in the Pac-12. Now, Oregon already has a loss, albeit against a very good team. Stanford is trying to see if they can get to that game and be in position, because the last time Stanford lost a game was at Oregon last October.
In a game that they led early.
And Stanford again smothers. Terrific defense.
So, you know, it's the little things that hurt you. Washington State comes out, they get 3 yards on a run. They throw a little wide receiver screen and lose 3 yards and come out and are forced then into a 3rd and long, and here they sit. It's little things that'll kill your drives, and when you're a young team and one trying to get better, those are the ones you have to learn to avoid in order to get to that next level.
And Glenn, what I like to see Washington State do is really take shots down the field. That's what they're going to need to do in order to get that offense momentum going.
Wagner with a punt. Terrell lets it hit, and well, the question is, did it hit a Stanford man? It was one of those dangerous punts.
It might have
been very dangerous punts.
Terrence Brown. It might have hit either Terrence Brown.
The officials they're not sure. They're looking at each other. Nope, they're saying Stanford now. So once again, I'm sure we'll have a pause here for review. This is that dangerous punt where the punt is short and the cover men don't realize.
That's right, and you can yell poison all you want, but there's only so many places to go.
That's right. You want to yell Peter, Peter, or poison, poison, and that's just telling everybody stay clear of the ball. It's too short, so that way you don't run in a situation like this.
The ball was illegally touched by a member of the kicking team. First down, Stanford.
Well, I can't see if it does touch him right. Hard to tell.
Hard. It's very hard. And I've seen a few games already this year with a similar kind of play, and it is one of those plays that is awfully tough for review.
Yes.
Because it's hard to get that proper camera angle. So Stanford starts at their 24. Luck back to his play action. Finds Whalen, and that'll be a first down to the 34.
Andrew Luck, play action. Gets his head around, starts looking at the defense immediately when he gets his head around, and is able to find Whalen in stride so that he can run with the ball. You take a look, see his head's around, he's looking, this ball's delivered on target, and Whalen has the ability then to run immediately upon catching ball. He doesn't have to stop or come back for it. That's a big time throw that really would go unnoticed.
Taylor on the first down carry, he got into that second tier, and it took secondary men for Washington State to make the stop. 5 yards there for Taylor on first down. And now you're in, what would you think, Glenn Akbar, it's this dangerous time for Washington State. One more Stanford score could really allow them to start dictating.
Yeah, they can start grinding you and bleeding you, like Coach Ball likes to say, but also it starts that avalanche of momentum shift into the second half, and that's where it'll get to.
Heavy lineup, strong bodies as Taylor tries to sweep left, and he's smothered. Short game, ball out. And let's see, we'll wait for the officials to signal. I believe Washington State has this one.
Washington State came up with the ball. It certainly looked like a fumble. Taylor got hit as he was going down. The question will be, was his knee down before he was hit?
And the referee, prompted by his fellow officials, signals Washington State ball.
Well, let's take a look. Does his knee go down before he gets hit coming in here? He is not down. That ball is out.
By Washington State. The runner is ruled down at that spot. First down.
He's on top of a Washington State player.
That's correct, and that's why he was knocked down. That ball was knocked out very cleanly and then picked up. I'll tell you, Chester Sua getting the start in place of Sokopi Kafusi makes a big hit and a fumble recovery.
So Stanford +4 coming into the day today in turnovers, -1 now on this day. And the Cougars have a great chance to reverse the fear that we just talked about. Rather than Stanford trying to score again and really open up the game, now Washington State, if they can take advantage of short field.
And that's the first time Washington State has had good field position. Before this, they had the ball at best at the 29-yard line.
And Ted and Glenn, what you have to do, especially as an offense and as a defense, you don't look at the scoreboard, and that's what they've been coaching on the Washington State sideline. Don't look at the scoreboard. Go out there and play football, and right now they're hanging in there with Stanford.
Winston, the play fake. Toole, an accurate throw to Carstetter. And that's going to be a first down inside the 30.
And Johnson Batamosi comes up and makes his tackle. And again, Carstetter almost fumbles this ball. He's at the bottom of the screen, just a stop route, and watch the wrap up. And again, he's fighting for possession of that ball. They must have seen something in that. Every time Carstetter gets the ball, they are hitting at him, wrapping up, and trying to strip the ball out of his hands. And so far, it's happened 3 times the ball's come to him.
9 yards on that. And a Washington State first down. Toole did well there. It was a high shotgun snap, but that's the first one to burst up the middle for a Cougar runner, Carl Winston.
And I'll tell you, he's 5'8", 200 pounds, much more straight ahead than Galvin, and just a spark plug. They love this guy.
Yeah, they do. I mean, that was number 3, me number 3, and you talk about running over somebody. That time, Carl Winston really gave it to Thomas. He just drove his leg. That's embarrassing, too, when you talk about being a defender and getting ran over like that.
8 yards on the first down carry. That's a long throw, and Toole got it there.
And that's what the coaches, when we talked to Sturdy, the offensive coordinator, we talked to Paul Wolf, they all thought that Jeff Toole had a little better arm. And you look where that ball comes out of his hand, it's got zip on it, it goes across the entire field, and it makes a beeline rather than floating on it. That was a really nice throw by Jeff Toole.
I agree with you, Glenn. That was an impressive, especially being on the far side hash mark to throw it across his body. That's a hard throw to throw in college football.
Marquise Wilson's 4th catch, 1st and goal. And to the corner, and a flag. Batamosi of Stanford going to be flagged there, contesting Carstetter.
That's interference. Defense number 27.
Batamosi didn't think this was interference. We got an ISO right here. He gets under him a little. I don't know what they saw. I'm going to say that was played as well as he could play it. I don't think that he interfered with that at all. I know that it's not real time, but certainly didn't look like interference to me.
So now the Cougars, trying to score their first points, have 1st and goal at the 2. Winston. Oh, and Stanford in the backfield. Luters in the backfield, and he drops him for a loss. Blake Luters.
And again, that's what you see when you watch film of Stanford's defense. Team defense across the board, sprinting to the ball.
Do you think Washington State can run the ball in here?
Absolutely, they can run the ball. They just brought in personnel for that. Now they've got number 34 in there. Mitz is in there, and he can run that ball. And look at the formation. They'll probably try to run it out of this shotgun formation.
And this is their biggest back, LeGuan Mitz, behind Toole. He's going to try to fade. And Batamosi and Carstetter again are tangled. And again, there's a flag.
And again, Batamosi says he did nothing wrong.
The official, Mike McCabe, on that one, he's the field judge. He's thrown it on him. That's his 2nd flag on Batamosi. But what happens is when you're down here, you get physical. You start wanting to keep that offense out of your end zone, and Batamosi is playing a little too physical.
That's interference. Defense number 27.
Well, here again, bottom of your screen, they get tied up here a little bit. It's that little bit of grab. I'll tell you what, Carstens did a great job of keeping his hand on Batamosi, trying to separate it, making it look a lot worse than it really was.
I would agree with that. I think the receiver suckered that flag out of the
like
pocket.
an Italian soccer player.
Winston driving, and they do run in for the touchdown. So Washington State, a significant sequence of plays starting with their takeaway. The defense gave them a short field, and then the offense punched it in.
A great drive for Washington State because they had some setbacks, but constantly got over the hump. They showed they could run the ball. That was a little bit of a statement by Washington State.
And coming up in the latter moments of the first half, it's a different look on this, although Stanford's going to have a chance. It's 10-7.
Well, you know, touchdowns a lot of times start with turnovers. And you got defense coming up making big plays. You got Sua forcing this turnover, getting the hit, coming up with the ball. That gives you a chance. And then you get your man running and getting a touchdown. A big one for Washington State.
In the first half, in which Stanford's embroiled in a much tighter game, there's one story. Chris Owusu, their big play receiver, who took a punishing hit in the first quarter, has not returned since. He's standing on that sideline in what we take to mean in football that he's not going to play right now. He does not have his helmet in his head.
That's right, and that was a big hit that he took, and that is a big part of this story because he's their most explosive playmaker when it comes to being a wide receiver.
Montgomery on the run back and gets Stanford. He got stripped, and the ball bounced right back to him. Holy moly. Wow. Sometimes the football acts like a yo-yo, and that's exactly what happened there for Ty Montgomery.
That's why they shape it that way. You never know what happens. Montgomery bringing it in. Again, a little loose from his body. Gets stripped with a good left hand, but very fortuitous. He happens to be there, and credit Montgomery. The ball comes loose. He immediately puts his eyes and starts looking for it and comes up with it. He's going to get a talking to from his coaches.
Well, that's been a big story of the first half tonight for Stanford. Andrew Luck, 7 of 11, but just 58 passing yards in the first half. He's got plenty of time here to operate. And going to take the short gain on a pass to Stewart, who's out of bounds. Now coming up, the Geico halftime report. Liam, Roland, Doug will have all the scores and highlights of this Saturday. 3 unbeaten teams have fallen. We're down to 10 and counting. And a look ahead to Sunday night football between the Vikings and the Bears. That's all coming up halftime here on Versus.
That's a good black and blue division fight.
Timeout, Washington State. Their first of the half. 30 seconds.
All right, the Cougars have taken a defensive timeout.
Wash.
All right, Stanford has 2 timeouts plus a minute 56, so plenty of time to operate here from their 36. And that throw, well, let's see how they rule this, but remember, simultaneous possession goes to the offense, and that may be the case there. Whalen of Stanford's ruled to have caught the ball.
And Daniel Simmons is trying his best, but like you said, simultaneous possession always goes to the offense. Here's a look at what we get here. Good body position by Whalen to keep his body between the ball and the defender.
So a first down out of the 45. Stewart floods out. Nice play by Stanford. Jeremy Stewart stayed to block for a moment, but then he just slipped out on the right side, and Luck saw it.
Yeah, he saw it. The linebacker couldn't keep up with him, and when you're in man as a linebacker and you're trying to run side to side with a running back, it's very tough. Stanford really would like to get something before half, and this is where they're very dangerous with Luck.
So a pass to Stewart for 15. Now Stewart runs for 4. And Stanford really has no time concerns here.
Still upping the tempo, though, to keep the personnel they want on the field.
Kobe Fleener has not been involved yet. There's a lob to Whalen. streaking down the sideline against Daniel Simmons, and it's incomplete.
And Daniel Simmons, really good coverage using his body to take real estate away from Griff Whalen.
And is that a pattern that Owusu
certainly
would normally run?
Absolutely. And again, you take Whalen out of the slot, you move him out because Owusu is out of the game, and Owusu is your most explosive receiver. That's one that he would run.
And the other issue, again, we mentioned that there's Owusu, who's been out since the first quarter, but Kobe Fleener's now coming off the field. He is not, I'm not recalling he's even been targeted yet.
I don't believe so. Maybe once in the end zone.
That's right. One pass at the end zone that was broken. That's right. All right, now Luck is going to take, well, let's see, did Washington State take the timeout? Okay, the Cougars actually took a second timeout on defense.
Timeout, Stanford.
Nope.
The quarterback called timeout first.
Okay.
Their second of the half.
All right, thank you.
John,
remember, Stanford lost a timeout on the failed challenge, so Stanford is down to one timeout remaining. And every week, of course, Thursday night, it's a great night to watch Versus diving deep in the NFL. You go inside the locker room and then on the field to see which turning points altered the week's most important games. NFL Turning Point from NFL Films. It's Thursday night at 10 Eastern on Versus. Against Stanford, remember, Stanford lost a timeout due to its failed challenge earlier in the half. Now they've called one, so they have one remaining.
And what you saw happening there was interesting. They liked their personnel matchup, so they were hurrying up. And then they got in a situation they didn't like. Fleener came off. They didn't like their personnel matchup, nor did Washington State, and they just beat Washington State to the timeout.
Now Stanford comes out of the timeout with both Fleener and Ertz in the left slot. Towards the bottom of your screen. Whalen is at the very bottom of your picture. And Luck throwing for Whalen. Oh, and Whalen almost hit a great one-hand grab, and his right arm got tied up with Simmons, and that's what Whalen is talking about.
And we're going to look at it right here. It'll be coming right at you to your right-hand side. This ball's up. Now, credit the route by Whalen. He does a nice job of giving Andrew Luck a place to throw the ball. That was not interference. It was just a tangle.
Yeah. Well, this is fascinating. 36-yard line. Stanford's decision, too far for a field goal. They don't want to give Washington State field position, so they bring in the punter, David Green.
Stanford finds itself in a bit of a dogfight now.
And the Cougars have nobody back. We're willing, and obviously we're watching out for any sort of a fake attempt. And instead, they'll get pinned deep in their territory and likely be able to just take a couple of knees and run out the time in the half. Now, next Saturday, college football on Versus. Kellen Moore and the 5th-ranked Boise State Broncos. They're trying to stay undefeated tonight when they play at Colorado State. Next week, Mountain West action in Boise. Air Force there. College football on Versus next Saturday.
Now, Washington State doesn't have to do anything here. Remember, Stanford got the ball coming out. Washington State's going to get it coming out. Don't need to do anything stupid.
This is taking knee time, right?
Yep. Sit down. Know that you're going to have the ball coming out.
We'll be back with you on Versus. In fact, we'll be with you 4 straight Saturdays in November with Pac-12 games as the first year at the Pac-12 conference, and the games start winding down towards the inaugural championship game. Stanford and Washington State both in the North, and we mentioned that the top 3 teams in the North haven't yet played each other. They start next week when Stanford hosts Washington. Oregon and Washington will play November 5, and then November 12 is that Oregon-Stanford battle in Palo Alto.
Very competitive round robin coming up in the North.
And those are the 3 games that most people expect will determine the North champion, who plays in the championship game.
That's correct.
Well, that's I think Stanford's got a look. You can tell Chris Owusu is obviously disappointed he hasn't been able to play. Stanford's got to be a little disappointed how that first half came, especially how it ended those last 6 minutes.
That is correct. And Washington State, on the other hand, is to be commended. Their defensive line played very aggressively. Their linebackers, their secondary got up in the face of every tight end, every receiver that Stanford put out there, and kept the precision passing game of Andrew Luck in check. Really got to be happy with what they're doing defensively.
One tunnel, so you see the Cougars waiting and allowing Stanford to exit first. But a very good first half for Washington State on their homecoming day. 10-7 Stanford. And time now for the Geico halftime report as we join Liam McHugh, Roland Williams, Doug Flutie in New York.
Versus
Washington State giving their fans hope, and that hasn't happened in the last few years here at Pullman, but that first half, particularly by their defense, forcing these Stanford turnovers.
Yeah, DeMonte Horton, really nice job coming under an underthrown ball by Andrew Luck, and then Chester Sua, big hit and fumble recovery. The defense really making some plays tonight. You can see what Stanford usually does versus what they're doing tonight so far on offense. And only 10 points and 89 passing yards for Luck. Not great. And the turnovers are key. That's the big difference.
Two big offensive weapons for Stanford down. And Jeff Toole, of course, back tonight for Washington State. He was not medically cleared to play until Wednesday. He's played the entire first half. Luck is missing his big play wide receiver. Chris Owusu took a jarring hit in the first quarter. Did not return the rest of the half. And Tyler Gaffney got hurt running back a kick, and he also did not return. And looking down here, and I'm having a hard time seeing either guy on the Stanford sideline right now.
I would imagine
there's Owusu.
You're going to see more pressure out of Stanford. And when Stanford gets the ball, I think they'll be taking some shots down the field with their tight ends and trying to open up a little distance in this defense.
Now, they were just back. David Shaw and his staff clearly used all of the 20 minutes of halftime because they did not come back out until about a minute on the clock. And put the ball on the tee right away to Williamson. And Washington State will get it first. Marcus Mason and Isaiah Barton are the deep men for Washington State. This is going to be Barton running it, and he's going to bring it out from 2 yards. Nice alley. Now it's a foot race, and Stanford has to use closing speed. Barton to midfield.
And you talk about the perfect play to keep your momentum going. You go into half with momentum from scoring and from stopping Stanford, and you come out with a huge return. Remember, the first series of the third quarter is always the most important of the game to establish the rhythm of the second half. Let's see what Washington State can come out with.
Longest kick return of the year by Washington State and allowed by Stanford. Both there, 52 yards by Barton.
And I would pay attention. I would keep an eye on Carstetter and his inability to really control the ball so far. So starting right from midfield, and Toole just throws a little smoke pass out to Isaiah Barton, the same man that ran the kickback. A 3-yard gain as we check our Foster's first half stats. Yeah, and you can see it's fairly even. I mean, maybe total yards a little bit in Stanford's favor, but those turnovers, one resulting in a touchdown for Washington State. That's the difference so far. That's the equalizer for Washington State.
Washington State's also had an injury. We don't get a whole lot of details here, but Ricky Galvin, their starting running back, has not come back in the game after he got banged in the first half.
Yeah, it looked like a shot to the head. You couldn't see what happened. He looked woozy coming off.
Carl Winston runs. He ran for the only Cougar touchdown. And Winston gets a short gain here.
You can see they're trying to go no huddle as well. They want to capitalize on momentum. They want to get this rhythm working.
What they've done to combat against Chase Thomas and the Stanford defense, Washington State has brought more big bodies into this offensive game as the first half went along.
That's absolutely right, because they were unable to protect the quarterback. Toole was taking some shots, so they've changed their personnel a little bit.
3rd and 7. Stanford spreading way wide on their defensive front. Chase Thomas coming in. And they just completely overwhelmed the Washington State offensive line there. Stanford with numbers getting in. And Chase Thomas, watch this action.
You know, he's a player, plain and simple. And you watch him come right through here. The offensive tackle gets overextended. He comes back under him, and he's relentless in his pursuit. And I love the wrap-up. I'm going to say that again and again too many times.
Yes.
Kids in college are going for the body shots, and this Stanford defense does a great job of wrapping up.
4th Stanford sack tonight. And Wagner, and he gets a low line drive. Gonna bounce a couple of times and then roll. And Drew Terrell just lets it go. Stanford will be pinned deep, but the Stanford defense that Akbar talked about so much in our open does a nice job here.
Well,
you know, see the
momentum could have gone against them.
See the fact that there are 4 coaches in this conference who coached where they played. 2 of them here tonight, David Shaw, Paul Wolf. And what I'm interested to hear you talk about, Glenn, all 4 of those guys, offensive players.
Well, that's where the brains are.
4 different positions, but all offensive players.
I think if you ask Akbar, he'll admit it. Stanford just came out and they've gone right back to what they do best. Pull a guard and attack, whether that's power or counter. The only difference between the two really is the movement of the back, the track of the back. They come right out, they run north and south at you, they get 4 yards. Like the defensive coordinator, Chris Ball, said they're just going to bleed us. They're going to try to get 3 to 5 every play and punish us and then take that shot over the top. And in Pep Hamilton's words, the offensive coordinator, it's block, 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 pass for his tight ends.
Taylor got 4. There's the first catch by the very talented tight end Kobe Fleener. Fleener is out for Stanford first.
Interesting, though, he had Zach Ertz running middle of the field wide open. He's going to come right in for 86. No one on him. Fleener comes underneath. Andrew Luck takes the safe play, gets the first down. But remember, I said they need to go more vertical with their tight ends. They had a chance there, wide open to go vertical.
Fleener has been such a threat. And of course, you saw several weeks ago that astounding one-hand catch he made against UCLA.
And great speed to go with it.
Now Luck goes down the field and Fleener may go. Now Washington State closes at the end and they prevent the touch. Fleener takes it down near the 10.
And again, go back. You got to go vertical. You got to start pressing this defense. And you take a look. Here's Fleener. Once he gets to that seam, now remember, this is the 3rd fastest man on the field. He's running away from some of the DBs. 3rd fastest man on Stanford's team. He is a big guy out there at 6'6", 254, and he can really move.
Daniel Simmons ended up saving the touchdown. 62 yards on the play from Luck to Fleener. And now it's Luck to Toilolo. Stanford brings the tight ends back, and as a result, they strike quickly to score.
That is what good teams do. You give up a huge kick return, but your defense buckles down and stops them, and you come right back with a quick drive, quick strike, and get yourself a touchdown. You see Toilolo, 11, middle of the screen. All he does is run the post from his tight end spot. Too much size, too much speed. That's a 6'8" tight end who can really fly against a very small DB.
Extra point by Williamson.
Extra point is good.
I tell you, this offense goes to the tight ends. And if you're Andrew Luck, you have to like what you can do. You're going to find yourself Kobe Fleener, whether it's underneath or down the seam, you get a big play. And never forget that you've got a guy, Levine Toilolo, at 6'8", on a post you can get to. Stanford with a big touchdown.
Levine Toilolo's 2nd touchdown catch of the year, the 10th by the 3-headed tight end monster for Stanford. And the play that set it all up was the longest pass play of the year for the Cardinals, 62 yards. Luck to Fleener, just a 4-play drive, and that's what will strike into the spirit of Washington State. All the momentum coming out. 4 plays takes it right back.
That's right. Big stops to end the half. You get a big return to start the half. You can't come up with anything, and Stanford just puts a dagger in you with a precision drive.
All right, so Williamson hits the ball again for Stanford. Isaiah Barton, and he's going to bring it back. He just brought one back over 50 yards. This time pushed out along the near side, shy of the 25.
Well, you know, when we talk about Mike Parker's points, the tight ends for Stanford, they are the way this offense drives. You look at it, when you talk about vision, each guy understands his position on the line of scrimmage and understands how to get himself open to the line of vision to the quarterback. Versatility, they can be wide receivers, they can be tight ends, they can block, they can catch, and toughness. These guys put their hand in the ground and will smack you right in the mouth, and yet they'll also take any shot you can dish out in the passing game. A great group of tight ends, and they really got it. They've got a lot of versatility for Andrew Luck.
Jeff Toole going to cut the ball and going to get some yards, and then a flag comes flying in, thrown by the referee.
Yeah, it looks like he's actually going to call holding in the backfield.
Personal foul, face mask on the offense, number 79. 15 yards from the previous spot. Replay, first down.
Big David Gonzalez, one of their most consistent offensive linemen. You know, it's funny, as an offensive lineman,
half the distance to the goal.
the D linemen were always putting their hands in my face mask. They never call it.
How does that happen?
Easy, Glenn. The defensive linemen don't always put their hands in their face. You guys are known for grabbing face masks.
Why did I know, Akbar? I knew you were going to come in with that, Akbar. That's perfect. Well, it's the kind of penalty that really stings, though. It just adds on to what Stanford's building right now.
It is, again, what stops a program from getting better. It's the mistakes of a young program.
Quick slant gets some of that penalty yardage back. And that's Galvin. It's nice to see for Washington State that Ricky Galvin is back on the field.
Yeah, and here's the face mask they're calling. I'll tell you what. I watched him on the cross. He didn't have it in there. He had it on his chin, and he didn't have it there. That's an official a little over-aggressive with his flag is what I'll say. Mr. Gonzalez, that was a bad call.
Well, as a defensive lineman, I can say that was a fair call, because when you start getting your hands in the face, we don't like that. They want to get pressure on the ball.
Again, empty for Toole, and the inside screen, and Stanford smothers.
The ruling on the field is an incomplete pass.
Right there you go, Stanford.
Ben Gardner read this as well as a defensive lineman can read a quick screen. He got out there fast to make the hit.
Harold Bernard was also there. He's getting some playing time in the secondary tonight.
And here's a look. He's rushing the passer. Reads. You see 49 there. Comes right out into that play. He smelt it very fast, sniffed it out, and got out there.
So the ruling of an incomplete pass there to Edey leaves Washington State 3rd and 12. Stanford only brings 3. And Toole gets the middle, and that is going to be very close.
Looks like he'll be about a yard short.
You got to love about the Washington State's offense and their defense. Both sides of the ball is not giving up. They're not backing down to Stanford, the team, or Stanford, the or. They're really starting to push some pressure. Be interested to see what happens here.
Well, Isaiah Barton with the catch. Carrington the tackle for Stanford. And on 4th down and no more than a half yard, Washington State will punt.
You know, I understand the fans want to go for it. You've had a lot of losing seasons. You say go for it. But if you're going to build a winner, you make right decisions. And you teach your team what the correct decisions are.
I'll tell you, that play is one that Stanford's got to be careful about. It's another short punt that came perilously close to hitting a Stanford man. And we have not yet seen it. May have grazed a Stanford man because there's no signal yet. Now it is that it's Stanford ball. So that pause means it must have touched a Stanford player. So Stanford gets the ball back now with a 10-point lead.
And recovered by the receiver. First down, Stanford.
Stanford up 10, 3rd quarter in Pullman versus college football. Monday night versus NHL action returns. The Avalanche and the Maple Leafs will do battle on Monday night. And then on Tuesday night, head up to beautiful St. Paul, Minnesota, for the Penguins and the Wild. Hockey on Versus.
Hockey. Love hockey.
How's that hockey working out in Tucson?
Well, not so good, but I still follow my Sabres a little bit.
There you go. The old Buffalo Bill, you. First down, big run. Oh, and there's a saving tackle. That was the last hope Anthony Wilkerson gets his first carry of the night, and the last hit saved that one from going the distance.
Hey, again, run the power. Bring your big hosses around. That's Kevin Danzer in for David Yankee. Getting around, single safety, blow through there, get some yards, block, 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 pass. That's the philosophy.
11-yard gain. Deion Buchanan saved a touch. Wilkerson again, this time 3 yards, and he gets stuck. Well, this is what Stanford will do. They'll run multiple running backs. Here's a fresh guy in Wilkerson in the second half.
Yeah, and the big hit there by DeMonte Horton and by C.J. Mizell. But you're absolutely right. Bring in a fresh back. Bring him in. Now, here you go. They run the power. And look at that hit. C.J. Mizell, perfect form. And again, I'm going to stress the wrap-up. We've seen that 2-3 times out of Mizell. Once on the goal line, once right there. Now here's where they go the vertical game.
Well, there's another, hate to say it because it sets the bar so high, but that's a rarity. Luck threw a bad ball there to Whalen.
Yeah, and he was mad at himself. After the play, he kind of made a gesture like, that's just not me. And that again, is credit to the Washington State defense.
Yes. This defense, and again, they've had some players hurt. Sakopi Kofusi, who's the starting linebacker for them, hurt.
And maybe their best linebacker.
Yeah. Defensive lineman, mentioned Leonard Williams not playing tonight. And this defense has stayed strong. Stanford with 3rd and 7. Boy, Washington State bringing all kinds of people, and Luck throws it low, and it winds up being incomplete.
Open me up. Luck could not step into that throw because of the pressure, so the ball died on him and was short. And you watch the pressure coming. They're pushing the pocket right in his face. Watch as he goes to step up. He can't. He runs into his running back, Stephen Taylor blocking. And because he runs into him, this ball dies on him.
That's a rarity for Andrew Luck to really have that kind of pressure back to back and to respond that way. That was good by Washington State.
Fair catch now on the punt by Green of Stanford, so Washington State will start at their 20. Midway through the 3rd, Luck has put the only points on the board of this quarter.
You're on.
Washington State wearing uniforms tonight for the first time, uniforms that were voted by their fans online.
I like them.
Pasted gray. They've been trying so hard to rebuild. It's a very proud program. It's some wonderful players that you've all watched play high level of professional football as well. And a big hit to the middle for Winston. They're going to start renovating the stadium at the end of this season. They're going to build a huge football complex at one end of the end zone. Right there where that big scoreboard is, there'll be a huge football building. It only seats 32,000. They eventually want to get the stadium to 45 to 50,000. Tool on a keep, and then he slipped as he tried to make a last cut around the corner. Now, we've seen so many Pac-12 schools, and Washington State, certainly with the new additions of Utah and Colorado, needs to make this investment in their football program.
Yeah, it's a business. You got to have a facility to help recruits too. They're going to put in that press box. They're going to put in a football-only facility at one end. Those are the type of things you get recruits on your campus if you keep up with the rest of the universities.
Their in-state rivals, the Huskies. Washington's going to redo the venerable Husky Stadium at the end of this year. Third and 5 here, empty for Toole. They've done this a lot on 3rd down, but he hits this one to Carstetter. Then the ball free, and the Cougars cover.
That is the 4th time.
You hit this, Glenn, yeah.
The fourth time Carstetter has given up the ball. I tell you that Stanford saw something in hitting and wrapping up with him, and that ball will bounce up.
Well, we had very hard to understand rulings about these kinds of plays in the first half. That one clearly was a catch and a fumble.
And a great job by Batamosi of putting his left arm in there and knocking that ball out. They saw something on film, and they have gone after it.
Toole throws quick to the side, and last week we had a conversation with the Stanford staff as that pass to Ratliff goes just a few yards. But one of the Stanford assistants said something to us last week, Glenn, that really strikes with me tonight. He goes, a lot of the West Coast offenses go side to side.
Yeah.
You end up going side to side, and we try to go up and down.
Yeah.
And Washington State tonight, their passing game is pretty much going side to side.
I never have understood a lot of the bubble screen and whip screens and the spread, because it's all designed, as he said, to go side to side. Throw the ball 30 yards to get 2 yards vertical. Why?
Well, the reason why they want to throw it out to the side is that's to exploit the weakness of the edge of the defense.
Well, Toole does there. He bought time, and he does strike down the field, but no, it's incomplete.
And again, Toole with a good job using his mobility, keeping his eyes down the field, delivers an absolute strike, and you can't come up with the ball. Isaiah Barton just can't come with it. See, there's the mobility. Just getting himself out of the pocket. See the defense a little bit different. Now here you see Barton on this. Now he does a good job of staying alive. But now you got to come up with it. Hits you right in the gut.
Wow. Got away from Michael Thomas and was there. Longest pass play tonight by Washington State has been 12 yards. Toole has 14 completions for 85 yards. It just strikes me it's going to be hard for them to win doing that. Rough snap. Toole fields it. This play is probably going to come back. Carstetter, even that one was a juggle. He's ruled to have, let's see what he's ruled to have done. He's out of bounds of the 50. It's probably going to come back.
They're going to get Dan Spitz, the right tackle, on a hold. He got beat underneath, and he got reached out. It did look like it looked like he tried not to hold him, but he's going to get called for it anyways.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Dan Spitz, defensive end, came right under. Ben Gardner came underneath, and it's hard for him.
There were 2 fouls by the offense on the play. An eligible receiver downfield, number 72. That penalty is declined. Holding by the offense, number 71. That 10-yard foul will be enforced from the previous spot. Replay 3rd down.
Another injured player for Washington State. Their starting right tackle, Wade Jacobson, a senior. He's down right now, so Spitz has been pressed into service both last week and this.
The coaches are high on Spitz. They like a lot of what he brings. He just overset. If you overset, you give a guy a way to get under you. Now you got to hold.
Third down numbers don't mean much when you get stuck in these. 3rd and 22s. No real good percentages here. Well, Toole's going for the big ball down the field. And the jump ball is tipped up and incomplete. Terrence Brown, the defender. And it's Marquise Wilson. And that was one shot to try to get their big play guy a big play.
And you know, Toole showed his arm strength. He was running, he planted, and he threw, and he got it out there. And you know, that's as good as a punt. At 3rd and 20, you put it out there. And especially, you haven't had great punting tonight so far. I believe his last one was 37 yards, so we would hope he can get it farther than that.
Another low-line drive, and the only thing that happens here, he's so short, Terrell can let it bounce, and it takes a little bit of a skip for the Cougars.
Yeah, and had that been an interception, it would have been farther than that punt was.
That's right. That's a good call. All right, well, we're coming into mid-October. We're kind of turning the corner on the season here, aren't we? And so the first BCS poll is going to be coming out after the weekend's game. Let's take a look at our lows building towards the BCS. And, of course, the Stanford side, that's been still a story. Stanford is undefeated. They actually lost a spot after a Wisconsin bye, but earlier this year, Stanford actually gained a spot when Boise State had a bye week.
So Stanford has come in with a big, heavy setup, an extra offensive lineman on the end of the line of scrimmage.
And Taylor gets outside, and Taylor runs for a first.
And that's right where they ran it. They brought in Kevin Dancer, and I believe they actually had Jonathan Martin on that side of the ball as well. I couldn't see. But if you take a look, a lot of big bodies, and then you pull another one around in front of it.
You want to wear a defense out that really is trying to hang around in the game. That's what you do. You go back to that run game, and that's what Stanford does so well. And you can even hear them on the sideline talking about wear them boys out.
And they have stayed in this heavy. Again, Tyler Mabry in there on the end of the line of scrimmage.
And that's what's so astounding. This is the school where Bill Walsh cut his teeth, where they produced just extraordinary quarterbacks, a lineage for decades of quarterbacks. He had Jim Harbaugh, what he brought to Stanford football, and it's being continued now by David Shaw. Is this, and it's funny because you watch Stanford play on Saturday and then the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday. It's like watching mirror images.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
You know, Harbaugh came in and realized, okay, here's who I have. Here's what I can run. He wanted to throw the ball a lot, but that's not what he could do with the personnel he had. And then they identified who can they recruit? Who are the kids that'll come to them? And that's what they've gone after. They've developed a very hard-nosed style with it.
Now the spread formation, getting his tight end spread. He tries to go up the middle of Fleener, and it's incomplete. So if you combine the polls that are existing right now, there's your lows building towards the BCS top 10.
Yeah, and you see Stanford sitting there at 5, and with games against Oregon, you know, that's certainly going to help their strength of schedule and allow them to move up. They've also got Washington, who might give them a little bump as well. So, and then of course Notre Dame.
Crowd trying to rally the Cougar defense on a third down. Whalen slid into the slot left, but the pass comes to Ernst, the tight end, and that's a first down. Third connection tonight for Andrew Luck to Zach Ertz.
Well, you take a look, he'll be the bottom of the screen. He comes up, comes under, and just finds the void. That's a simple route. And what was wrong is the DB, Deion Buchanan, who's actually a safety sitting there, allowed the big tight end to cross his face and get his shoulders square to the quarterback. That's too much jersey for that quarterback to see.
Glenn, you're right. I mean, defensive coordinators always talk about leverage and coverage, and that time the defender had his body to get help from another defender, but they weren't there, so that's why Ertz got that pass out.
Luck throwing that wheel route down the far sideline to Rashad Patterson. That's incomplete. And Rashad Patterson getting a little more chance to play. Chris Owusu took a big-time pop in the first quarter of this game, has not returned since. Owusu does have a concussion history. He did miss several games of last season for Stanford.
And they take their shot down the field. What do? They bring Tyler Mabry and Kevin Dancer back in, offensive linemen, line them up heavy, and now run the ball back at you.
And oh, by the way, I spoke with Owusu on the sideline, and he's out for the game.
Okay. Thank you, Akbar. Here's Taylor. Oh, look at Taylor picking his way in. He got close. He's going to be a little bit short. But that's a nice job of making something out of what appered to be nothing.
Yeah, and one thing that strikes you when you look at it, look at all the big bodies in white throwing themselves around, and they're all a hat on a hat, and they're all belly to belly with the defender, and that's allowing Stephen Taylor to find his way through there.
So he's on the verge of another 100-yard game as Taylor ran for over 1,100 last year. Now the play clock going to run out here on Stanford. They're facing 3rd and 2. Play calling in this offense is a little more complicated.
Timeout, Stanford.
Luck
their first time out of the half.
Wears a wristband on his left arm. We'll get into that when we come back to Holman. Final 2 minutes, third quarter. Stanford trying to build on the lead. Well, Stanford leading by 10. You see Andrew Luck there? See what he's doing? The plays in this offense that Jim Harbaugh instituted and David Shaw is continuing have a lot of words. And so Andrew Luck wears a wristband. The plays are signaled to him with a code, and then he calls the actual play by reading his wristband. Third down. Stanford trying to run it, and Taylor will get it. If you watch San Francisco on a Sunday now, Alex Smith does the same exact thing. He's wearing a wristband, even with the radio in his helmet, because the plays have a lot of words.
And that is a product of the West Coast system coming in. And what it is in the old days, so to speak, you had a play call and everybody knew what to do. But as NFL progressed, and you got more and more guys being brought in that maybe weren't familiar with it, the verbiage got so that you told everybody exactly what they were doing on a given play. So the verbiage is very lengthy.
Luck looking high, and he's got Toilolo stretching, and it is a touchdown. Levine Toilolo Toilolo's second touchdown catch.
The interesting thing is he had Ryan Hewitt actually more wide open right down the middle of the field running with him. But there's that height advantage for Toilolo, that 6'8", going up high over the DB to get that ball.
And not only that, his height helped him out because he was able to stretch out and actually get that touchdown.
Welcome to a world of 6'8" tight ends, right?
6'8" fast tight ends, too.
Highest tight ends, Joseph Fourier at UCLA, the same. Williamson for the point. Luck. We're talking at halftime that he didn't have a whole lot of passing yards. He's up to 205 now, and 2 touchdowns in this quarter to Levine Toilolo as we had a flag thrown on the point.
I think it's going to be a personal foul, either some sort of leaping or landing on someone, or an unnecessary. There was bodies flying around in there.
After the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness number 5 on the defense. That foul will be enforced on the kickoff. The try is good.
And Ted, those are what we talk about with inexperienced teams. Young teams trying to get over the hump. Now you put yourself in a hole. Now you look at this touchdown. Toilolo, tight end on the right side, gives a bump like he's blocking, and that allows him to get behind the secondary. Terrence Brown can't cover him. He's not fast enough, and he's too short. But here's another look. The blocking is good. He's got plenty of time, and it's that height factor, and it's that little bit of block down that got him open. Andrew Luck likes a lot what he just saw.
Well, if you're Andrew Luck, you just have to be happy to have a 6'8" tight end that can do things like that. You don't see a lot of guys with that mobility. And the reason why we keep talking about his height, as you guys know, it's very hard to play the game of football with that type of height because you don't have the type of leverage that you need to play this game. This game of football is all about leverage, and the kind of leverage you want to get on the football field is power and explosion. And Toilolo showed that exploding through that tackle and stretching out all 6'8" of them.
Well, the thing about Toilolo being at 6'8" is when you see him in his three-point stance, he's actually down as low as the offensive lineman, so he is playing with that leverage. Very tough for a tall guy to do.
Yeah, if I were his knees, I wouldn't want to be want to be a part of that.
Well, how fortunate these Stanford players feel to have the chance to play with Andrew Luck. Here's Kobe Fleener.
He spoils the receivers and the running backs and everyone he plays with. I mean, the leadership he displays is unbelievable. And then to see him play is a spectacle even when you're on his team. Practice, game, it doesn't matter. He really wants to be the best he can be.
And he's clean-shaven this week.
Yeah, got rid of the big mountain man beard.
Yeah, he said his mother told him that it's time for you to cut it off.
It's a ball dropped by Barton. And, Andrew Luck, he's one of the more fascinating untold stories. When Andrew Luck came to Stanford, he did not play his freshman season. He was redshirted. And I asked Jim Harbaugh last week, because Jim Harbaugh was the head coach who made that difficult decision. And Jim, who played 15 years in the NFL, said, he said, I just have seen too many bad things happen to young quarterbacks through the years.
And remember, he was a quarterback as well, so he was in a great position to make that decision.
And what, obviously was already known, Andrew Luck was the most talented quarterback as a freshman on the Stanford team, but Jim Harbaugh felt strongly to let him sit for a year. And Andrew Luck himself, I asked him, he said, I learned a lot watching Tavita Pritchard, quarterback. Tavita Pritchard, who's now an assistant coach on the Stanford team, was a great learning tool for Luck.
So Jeff Toole, they're in a hole because of the penalty. They get a drop pass, so now they're sitting at 3rd and long. Again, it's the little things that stop you from getting over the hump as a program.
Toole has played everything tonight, the entire game, and there's a ball that's thrown, and they're going to rule that ball uncatchable. So the contact is negated by the ruling from the officials, and the pass was uncatchable. The field judge immediately made the signal that this pass is, in his view, this pass is not catchable.
And for me, that's a tough one to call, because how do you say what a guy can do or can't do jumping? If he was held down from jumping, maybe he gets that. That's a tough call in my mind.
Well, I was right in front of Isaiah Barton, right in front of that catch, and it was uncatchable. I mean, he would have to jump at least 50 inches to get that ball.
So you're saying I could have done it, Akbar?
No, you needed a little bit more boosties to get up in there.
Drew Terrell with the fair catch in the final minute of the third quarter. College football on Versus continues next Saturday. Boise State played its first Mountain West game today. They scored 63 at Colorado State. They'll be at home for Air Force next Saturday, 3:30 East. College football on Versus. I can't help but say this, guys. I mean, Boise State, TCU, Utah, the big boys in this sport have fought for years to keep those guys out, right?
Yes.
And now Boise State's being fought over. I can't help but just enjoy the unbelievable irony of that.
Well, especially for those of us out west who followed those teams.
Luck put that ball right there for Sean Patterson.
We watched Boise State in the bowl games. We watched TCU play the Big 12 occasionally. We saw Utah in the Sugar Bowl. We knew they were good, and yet they were, like you said, held out for so long.
When you see the story that the Big East is going to invite Boise State, you can't make that up. You could not walk into a Hollywood office and say, I've got an idea for you guys for a show, and have anybody buy that.
That's right. Only in college football of the day does Boise State make any sort of sense for the Big East.
It doesn't make any sense. Could it even be proposed, right? Second down. Well, Stanford not grinding it yet, and going up the middle. The big jump there by Ty Montgomery. And there's a Washington State defensive lineman down, Travis Law, in there, standout D-end.
He looked like he was coming free, and it looked like he got pushed in the back as he got free.
That's what the fans
didn't get there.
Thought, yeah.
And he, I think, maybe knocked the wind out of himself, or just he's running off. He seems fine, but fans wanted something, didn't they?
And Stanford spreading out the formations here. Third down and 10. Stephon Taylor, the single back. Again, Taylor in the block. And Luck throws that ball right on the money. I mean, that is a long out, and he throws it right on the spot to Zach Ertz.
And you know, he's running open. But he's running open, but the ball's put on him where he can continue to run and make a move and get himself back out there. And remember, Andrew Luck couldn't step into that, though. There was somebody on his legs, and he had enough zip to get it out there.
And that's the kind of throw that, again, Jim Harbaugh, former quarterback himself, who recruited Andrew Luck, that's the kind of throw he talks about, was that Luck would make cross-field throws, strong-arm throws, where the ball could only go into one tiny window, and he put the ball in that spot.
Yeah, he's a rare talent, that's for sure. When you see him before the game, he's such a bigger guy than you might think. He's a big physical specimen as a quarterback.
Well, Andrew Luck had a huge third quarter. He threw for almost 150 yards in the third quarter, and he struck for 2 touchdowns to sophomore tight end Levine Toilolo. That's broken this open for Stanford. Stanford trying to extend the nation's longest winning streak, trying to stay among the dwindling numbers, still a decent number of unbeatens, but we've lost at least 3. Today, 13 teams started this Saturday undefeated. Stanford out of the eye with Hewitt as the tight end, or the fullback, excuse me. And looking again, the open. And that's the 6th catch tonight for Griff Whalen, who gets it inside the 10.
You know, when you have a program that is on the ascendancy and you think is good, people have to step up. With Owusu out, Griff Whalen has stepped up. He's put himself out there, they've called his number, and he's responded. Exactly what you want when you're trying to build that next level program.
Walk-on is an outstanding lacrosse player in high school. Stephon Taylor gets the carry for short yardage. Whalen is kind of reflects a lot of players through the years at Stanford, because there are many players who played for Stanford who could have gone and played. They get recruited by Ivy League schools because they have the academic credentials, obviously, and they choose, even though the level of play is going to be much tougher at Stanford, they choose to walk on at Stanford, and Griff Whalen is one of those players.
I had a great conversation with the Harvard coaches upon doing it, and they said, if a kid's a great athlete and he can get in here, we lose him to Stanford. They plain and simple just knew it. That's the way it was going to be.
Stanford trying for what could be the finishing score here. And they'll get it on that shovel to Taylor.
What I love about the way Stephen Taylor runs is he knows where the play is designed to go. And regardless of where sunlight is, he takes it where it's designed to go. Watch him follow David Yankee, number 54. He stays right on his outside hip. He stays right on his tailbone till they get to the end zone and puts it in. Easily could have bought a little fool's gold to that opening to the outside and gone there, but that's not the way it was designed. That's what you love as an offensive lineman.
31-7.
Stephen Taylor, I love the way this guy runs because, as I said, he follows his blocks on the shovel. Follow your big horse around, get in the end zone, and take the lead.
Stanford back now to a margin they're more familiar with. Their average margin of victory over the last 2 years is 25 points as we look at our Foster's game stats.
And again, you know, when we talk at half, it didn't look like much, but now all of a sudden, Andrew Luck has 262 passing yards, and I guarantee you, it's because of that running game. It's because of they decided they were going to run the power. They're going to bring in some heavy personnel. They're going to force it down Washington State's throat and then allow the tight ends to run vertical.
Luck has thrown for 173 and 3 touchdowns in the second half. And the Cougars now on this short kick. Marcus Mason out just across the 25. The first 2 of those 3 touchdowns by Luck have been to his tight end Toilolo.
Yeah, if you take, he's actually lined up in the tackle position here because they're in heavy personnel with big guys on the side, and all he does is just run the post. But when you're that tall and you're that explosive, you know, you make it look easy. And here, lined up his tight end spot, he bumps on the end. What he'll do is act like he's blocking, and then he takes off. You get a safety to fight, there's no way the DBs can catch up to you at that point. Really well designed. It was a great play action, and they bit. Levine Toilolo is a good target for Andrew Luck.
Jeff Toole has played the entire game for Washington State. Is returning. He has a wide open man across midfield. Marquise Wilson, by far the best pass game tonight for Washington State.
And what I like about Jeff Toole is he didn't panic. He just eased up into the pocket. He moved within that phone booth we talk about with quarterbacks. You don't have to move a long way. Just feel the pressure and get out of it.
22-yard gain to Wilson. Washington State is a team that came in averaging 350 a game passing. They have 111 tonight. Flags as Winston bouncing off tackles. And that goes back to the point I brought up a little earlier about their passing attack tonight going side to side, and they just haven't. The thought behind it, we don't know, but it just hasn't produced.
Offside on the defense, number 93. 5 yards, replay, first down.
And I think a large part of that is there's a wisdom to going sideways against a team like Stanford. You think you have better athletes on the edge than they do. When I say the edge, the wide receivers. But one thing Stanford does is they run really well as a team defense to the ball.
1st and 5, and there's a first down run by Winston.
You know, Paul Wolf's in the position right now with this team that he understands that it's still a building process. So let's do one thing right, and right there we got the first. 1st and 5, let's get one thing right, get the first. Building little building blocks to help our program get better. Now, we played in this thing for a half. We didn't quite get there. So let's just do one thing right at a time.
Well, the opening series of the second half, as Glenn Parker predicted, really did tell the final, what appears to be the final tale, as Stanford sacks Toole for the 5th time tonight. And that's a young man that we didn't see last week, and he's got a chance to play tonight.
Derek Mason is, sorry about that, Ted. I was just going to say that Derek Mason has been really aggressive in suffocating Toole with this pressure defense, and that's the thing that the offensive line up front is having a hard time with, is bringing the pressure from the left side, the right side, and up the middle. That's hard for a quarterback, especially a quarterback that's been rusty.
Senior Harold Bernard, Chandler, Arizona.
So Toole is switching his line to slide to the left and brings his running back in.
Well, that ball almost picked. Michael Thomas cut underneath Barton there, and almost at the Stanford intercept.
And in credit to him, he saw the pressure and got his protection correctly, knew where to go with the ball, but when you run a slant, you cannot let the DB cross your face. And this is exactly what happens. The DB crosses in front of the face of the wide receiver, almost results in a pick.
Michael Thomas is, like a lot of the Stanford defensive backs, they were offensive players. Michael Thomas was a quarterback in high school.
Again, that's why they play so smart.
A long third for Washington State. And Toole's got a man. Nice throw. And the Cougars are going to be at the 10. A big strike to Barton. So the first 2 downfield throws of the night on this possession for Washington State. 33 to Barton.
Well, I like what Jeff Toole does here. He shows great patience in moving and waiting for Barton to come into that second window where he'll open up. He did a nice job of waiting. He waited it out. He's been under a lot of pressure tonight, but still stood in there and delivered that strike.
They marked the ball down at the 12-yard line. That's a 31-yard play, still the longest of the night for Washington State. Toole throws it out in the flat. Michael Thomas pushes Isaiah Barton out at the 10. Washington State will go next week to Seattle. They'll play Oregon State, which is not having a standard. I mean, they're down with it this year. And I'm sure that's what Paul Wolf is in the back of his mind will be thinking after the game tonight. Right, next week's the game. You want to set the foundation to make sure you go next week.
That's right. And knowing that if you can get that win, now Barton was not ready for this ball to come out. Toole had to get rid of it. He was going to take a shot, and he did. Barton was not ready for it. So, but you're right. He's got a Washington State. You look and say, all right, Oregon State's an opportunity. Cal's an opportunity. Utah's an opportunity, and Washington is a rivalry game. So there's a chance on our schedule still for 4 wins and a bowl game for us.
Right.
And that's something they haven't tasted in a long time.
Exactly. They'll play 2 games. Washington State will play next week, and the Apple Cup game against Washington are both going to be in the Seahawks Stadium.
Right.
Third and goal. Actually, 3rd and 8. And that's just beyond Barton. Now the decision, does 3 points matter? And Paul Wolf, believe, is going to say no, go for it.
I think if this was the situation 15 minutes ago, maybe you take the 3. But here you let your young team have a chance to get a little something on the board.
So 4th down, they can get a first at the 2. Look at him trying to find a spot. And it's tipped and incomplete. And there was a flag back that you would strongly suspect is a holding flag.
Holding by the offense, number 77. That penalty's declined. The play results in a turnover on downs. 1st down, Stanford.
And so Paul Wolf let his team go for it. They took a shot. I guarantee that's what every fan in the stadium wanted too. College football on Versus, brought to you by Foster's, Australian for beer. And by Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more in car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote. Washington State, and what Paul Wolf, their football coach, hopes he's done here in Pullman is already build the foundation to replicate what happened on this very campus of just a couple of years ago in basketball, where Dick Bennett and then his son Tony Bennett ended up building a nationally ranked top 20 basketball program. Stanford running here for a short game with Anthony Wilkerson, and Washington State did that in basketball by recruiting one core group of guys, which is a little bit easier to do in basketball.
It is.
And sticking with them. Well, and that's what Paul Wolf really feels like he has that core in place right now.
He believes his sophomores and his redshirt sophomores, the young nucleus, that core is what he's got, and he's starting to build with them.
Second down, he still gets the quick game, right?
See, Jeff Tooley is very frustrating because the Cougars just had their best drive of the night. They went 66 yards, but couldn't put it in the red zone.
There's Paul Wolf, and he is doing it the right way. He's come back home. He really cares about this program, and you know, over the years, I've watched the last 3 years with this team, and they have gotten better and more competitive steadily under that man.
He's a successful coach north of here, Eastern Washington, before coming back to his alma mater. Luck throws, Fleener. And again, just watch this again, Glenn. Look where the ball is. You couldn't put it in a better spot.
And that is what gets lost when you talk about college quarterback. Many times they can put it into a guy's hands on the run who's wide open. Very, very often, though, they can't make the throw at any level, meaning what Andrew Luck can do is no matter where on the field he's throwing it and in what direction he's throwing it, the ball is put in the proper spot. So it's not behind the guy. It's not too far in front of the guy. It's not down in the ground. That's what's most impressive, I think, when you look at the way he throws the ball.
That was 29 yards to Fleener. Luck has thrown for over 200 yards now in the second half. Short running game here for Jeremy Stewart. Luck, who most fans now know he came back to Stanford this year, but because he sat out his first year, he's going to get his degree at Stanford in the spring. That was important to him, but really another factor for him was coming back to continue to play with his class.
And you know what, that struck a chord. That struck a chord with, I think, a lot of players, a lot of ex-players, because so often when a group of guys come in together and they stick together, it's that process. And I think the fact that he wanted to be with them probably more than endeared him to his teammates, all of them across the board, but that class. But I think it endeared him to a lot of football players across the country. Like, you know, that's the way it's supposed to be done. That's just a top-notch guy.
So 3rd and 5. Luck is now 20 of 32, 294 in the air. 3 touchdowns. Here's a first down, so Stanford will just be able to keep the clock.
Really all night, Andrew Luck has been putting on a clinic. He's so smooth and efficient with his feet when delivering the ball. What that does is it makes it very hard for the defensive backs to really break on the ball. He gets the guys, he can pitch it, he can throw it. I talked to Ryan Leaf on the sideline, and you know, Ryan Leaf experienced the same type of stardom in college football, a star quarterback for Washington State, and he said that what's impressive about him is the fact that he can stay efficient and really sling the ball when he's under pressure. Almost the same thing John Elway said last week.
Luck throwing the deep ball down the far sideline.
You know, Ted, Ryan Leaf is out here for his new book. He's been doing some book signing for his new book, 596 Switch. And in his book on page 91, I was up last night reading his book, and he talks about the fact that when he had Coach Mike Price for his coach, he had a hard time having command of the offense. And in fact, he said on page 91, Coach Price told me that players play the ball game and coaches coach. And if you think about that in transition, he said, well, man, Andrew Luck has it easy. He can call the plays when he wants to. Man, I wish I had that kind of offense when I was playing.
Taylor, number 33, the ball carrier.
Now, Ryan Leaf took Washington State to the Rose Bowl, and I was asking Washington State folks, that was in 98, yesterday and today, and they pretty much all said, if Washington State could pull off an upset here tonight, it'd be the biggest win since Ryan Leaf clinched the Rose Bowl. And how dramatic that was for a school here, a school that's in Eastern Washington, doesn't get that chance very often. Very next year, Stanford went to the Rose Bowl, the last time they've been.
you know, a play like this will go unnoticed in the stats, but Andrew Luck scrambling a little bit, looking downfield. He actually had a shot at Lolo down the middle. But rather than take it knowing there was a safety over the top, take the safe out, play another set of downs. That's the type of decision that if you're a pro scout, you love. Because you're not putting your team in danger. You're not giving any momentum over. You're doing the right thing, the little things, when people really aren't watching.
Would it also mean not putting a teammate? Not leaving a teammate vulnerable?
Absolutely. And that's what I mean when I say, you know, people not watching. I'm saying it's too easy to go, oh, that was just a nice little play. But in reality, it was a really good decision-making process.
Good defensive stop there by Washington State. Horton runs. Wilkerson out of bounds. Turning point. NFL turning point. Thursday nights at 10 Eastern. Right here on Versus.
Well, Stanford has brought back in their heavy package, of which they've run out of, they've play actioned out of, and they've straight drop backed out of. So we'll see where they go with it. It's got to be confusing for that Washington State defense.
Jeff Minkin motioning. Luck is now up to 308 passing yards. And Wilkerson takes it inside the 30. And what Stanford is doing here is, as the Washington State coaches said, bleeding them dry, right?
Yeah. And
bleeding that clock.
Bleeding the clock, grinding it on you, getting into a brawl with you. 3 yards here, 5 yards there.
Stephon Taylor has 100 rushing yards. Stanford is up well over 400 yards of offense right now. And they've converted in the second half 6 of 7 on thirds, but they're getting a lot of these short thirds. Makes the difference. And again, Fleener, beautifully done off play action for the touchdown.
And that's exactly what the Washington State coaches were so afraid of. He's so accurate in play action. You know, you come out, you just get him rolling a little bit, and he's got an underneath pass. He can actually go to his fullback underneath. He's got Hewitt if he wants him, but instead he goes a little deeper. Excuse me, he had Ertz if he wanted him. Instead, he decides to take the 6 to Kirby Fleener.
Chris Ball, the defensive coordinator for the Cougars, was showing us yesterday their breakdown of Stanford and how much, fairly clear, but how much more dramatic it is when they had makeable thirds, right?
That's right.
Stanford wasn't. Look at that perfect example.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's Kirby Fleener. Got himself open, again, understanding where he's got to be on the field. He's got some great speed. He'll put his hand in the dirt and block it. But here he is. Hey, listen, run the corner. Andrew Luck will find you, and we will extend our lead.
Our Buffalo Wild Wings game reset. You see how Stanford, it was 10-7 at the half, and now 38-7. Luck. I can't tell you how much distasteful that whole issue of style is in college football, but you know, given that it's a sad reality, Luck is adding to that, just put up almost 250 yards in the second half.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll go back to, I think the best play he made all day was seeing a safety rolled over into single with a corner coming, bringing his tight ends back in and running the counter away for 31 yards. To me, that's the smartest, best play he made all day.
All right, Washington State here. Kick return right to the 20-yard line. Andrew Luck poised to win his 26th game as a starting quarterback at Stanford. Why did he come back to add to that total?
We were here, I guess, when we did have a losing season and weren't so good, and we've been a part of, you know, I guess turning it around, and I think that's something that a lot of guys, you know, want to hang their hat on, but don't yet, because we feel like, you know, we can still accomplish more. So you know, I think just coming back and playing with those guys, and we're not the only ones to turn it around. You know, the older classes above us definitely showed us the ropes, but we, you know, we'd like to continue this upward trend.
Yeah, I'd say that's happened, as Toole is now out of the game, and Marshall Lobestall is in now at quarterback for Washington State. Handing it off to LeGuan Mitz.
You know, Andrew Luck talked about the improvement, the upward trend, but, you know, 5-7, 8-5, and then, you know, take a look at the 12-1 season.
12-1 last year.
That would have been a very busy season.
Yes, exactly.
That way.
Well,
but 5-0 right now, and certainly looking to extend it.
It was another part of luck. You could tell listening to him talk there that David Shaw referenced quite a bit is his voice. And
resonant.
And it really helps. Now, it's not a factor right now, as there's great defense by Stanford on that left side screen to Barton. But in noisy situations, Jim Harbaugh has a phrase he uses, the internal megaphone. And that's what Luck's, so Luck's voice helps pierce some of that loud crowd noise. And that's an interesting thing. I don't think a lot of fans don't think about that.
No, they don't. And again, it's the deep voice, because crowd noise is a higher pitch because people are whistling and screaming, and therefore a deep voice cuts through it at a base level.
Minutes. Marshall Lobestal, the seniors, had some big games after Toole got hurt in week 1 this year. And he hits Barton there on the cross. Sua Amanam on the tackle for Stanford, 9 yards and a first down. Marshall Lobestal, a fifth-year senior, who he only started 6 games in his career here until this year when he took over for Toole.
And high praise from the coaches. They just love his attitude. They said he made the situation work because of who he is. And we got a chance to sit down with him, and he seemed like a kid who had it all together. And he just really one of those kids that coaches use code words. Worker, All-American type kid. They put all those words into the sentence trying to describe him for us, and we saw it.
So here's a typical story you hear about these in college football all the time, right? Lobestal was not recruited in high school. His art instructor in high school taught the young man at the time who was Washington State's quarterback coach. As there's a first down catch to Ratliff. So the high school art teacher calls his old student, who's now the quarterback coach at Washington, and says, I have a kid here that just threw for 6 touchdown passes in high school. You got to take a look at him. And so they said, all right, send some tape over. So that began the process that ended up with the only offers Lobestal got was from Washington State.
And he has done a great job this season of kind of keeping the ship on course while Jeff Toole was injured.
Pass is coming, number 83.
I mean, you're living proof of it. Your guy didn't play football till later on in the relative scheme of things.
Yeah, I was, I didn't really start playing until I was 20 years old. I walked on at a junior college. So there's talent out there. You just got to go find it.
Look out in the right flat, and it's Bobby Ratliff, and he takes it down to the Stanford 30-yard line. So Washington State's going to, here in this end of game period, going to add up some numbers, but the Stanford defense is another story tonight that gets overlooked a little bit. But at the start of this fourth quarter, Washington State had 117 offensive yards.
Yeah, the Stanford defense, I believe Coach Sturdy, the offensive coordinator, just talked about how it's every play, everybody seems to be where they're supposed to be, and they all close in on the ball.
And here's a run. Lobestal does a good job to get away. He's about to get sacked, and instead he runs it all the way down to the 15-yard line.
Give the homecoming crowd a little something to put their hands together.
So he runs for 15 yards. Stanford has sacked Toole tonight 5 times. Luck has not been sacked. And that's another story. Andrew Luck, remember, he chose to come back here this year, and has been sacked twice. Has been sacked twice this year. Right down the aisle, right down the row from us is sitting the quarterback who took Stanford to their last Rose Bowl, Todd Husak. He's now the analyst on Stanford Radio. That's maybe incomplete. The Rose Bowl season for Stanford, when they won the Pac-10 title, Husak was sacked 3 times the whole year. And he'll always tell you how important, how significant that was.
Yeah.
Here's a guy, he's been sacked twice.
Yeah, and a quarterback, it's hard to complete passes on your back. And if you can run an offense and not have the uncertainty of pressure always in your face, you could be a lot more efficient quarterback. There's a reason the NFL has become a league of blitzes and dogs. It's because it's a quarterback-driven league, and you need to get after it.
LeGuan Mitz behind Lobestal on the pistol here on second down. Nice catch. Now, David Shaw shares a little thing with Akbar. David Shaw coached for 4 years for the Oakland Raiders. His father, of course, was a coach for the Oakland Raiders. Akbar played for the Raiders. And David Shaw talked about Al Davis this week and saying one of the great things Al Davis taught him was it's not sacks, it's hits. How many times do you hit the quarterback? That's the significance. Lobestall here is going to go imagine. I imagine, Akbar, you in your time playing for the Raiders, you probably heard that from Al Davis.
Timeout, Washington State, their second of the half. 30-second timeout.
We have a timeout to interrupt our flow, so we'll make sure we get back to Akbar on that when we return on
Washington State's first timeout of the half. Media timeout.
You know, Al Davis was really a pioneer, and he really changed the game. For me, Al Davis brought me in when no one really believed in my talents coming out of San Diego State. But if you look at Al Davis and his history, he was a game changer. You talk about the first African-American head coach in the modern era, the first Latino head coach in the modern era, that came Tom Flores and Art Shell. So Al Davis, to me, was always thinking about the future of the game.
All right, Akbar, I said Akbar had a chance to play for the Oakland Raiders for a couple of years. There's a pass out of the backfield, a 4th down completion to LaGuan Mitz. That's good drive by the guy's the biggest back for the Cougars.
Yeah, he just lacks a little consistency. I think he'd be on the field more, but watching him on film, not quite always right in his pickups in the passing game. Doesn't always run with the effort you just saw there. And that's just from watching a little film on him. I think he's a guy that has a lot of promise.
So the closing seconds, and Lobestall will get in on the run. Marshall Lobestall. And so a nice drive by Lobestall. 79 yards he takes the Cougars here in the final minutes.
And I like the way he puts his shoulder down and delivers a blow. When he decides to go, watch this left shoulder go down. He delivers the blow and gets in there. Marshall Lobestall showing a lot of heart out there.
You see the respect he has, right? On his side. He'll be getting a degree. Psychology major, getting his degree in the spring. Andrew Fernie kicks the extra point for Washington State. 14 seconds left. So a nice consolation prize for the Cougars. They get a last-minute touchdown.
Yours.
Well, I think part of the emotion you saw on the sideline there as well is that Marshall Lobestall had to, give back the job to Jeff Toole this week. Homecoming week, Lobestall had thrown for over 1,100 yards the last 3 games. And I think the players, his teammates, understand how tough that had to be.
Yeah, and he handled it well. And there was no whining about it. He just did it. He understood his role. He handled it well. A lot of respect from his teammates for the way he did all that.
Washington State to kick here in the final 14 seconds as Stanford is about to put its stamp on its 14th consecutive victory, the longest winning streak in the nation. It'll be their 6th straight on the road. Montgomery. Well, they're not going to get him. Ty Montgomery puts an exclamation point on the win for Stanford. 96-yard touchdown return. No flags. The only negative of the whole play is Kobe Fleener got slightly
the try will be attempted on this side of the field.
Shaken
up. The touchdown is good.
There you see Fleener go down. You can see it.
Yeah, he got his legs taken out from him, so you give yourself a touchdown, but you certainly have to help that he's all right.
Need to be attempted. The touchdown counts, and the game is over.
And there you hear the announcement. The touchdown counts for Ty Montgomery. There'll be no PAT. Fleener's walking off, and of course with Stanford facing a very important game. Their first big game of the year will be next Saturday night at home against Washington.
Yeah,
they could ill afford to lose Fleener.
And a very resurgent Washington team. Coach Sarkisian up there has them playing really well. And they're putting together a season for themselves. So as you said, a very big test for Stanford in the Pac-12 North coming up.
Well, Washington State ran the opening kickoff of the second half back 50 yards. They had the ball at midfield, down 10-7, and they could not take advantage of that opportunity. The game went completely to Stanford after that. And let's hear now from David Shaw. He's with Akbar.
Coach, that first half was tough, but you guys fought it out. What was the adjustment you guys made in the halftime coming out?
We talked about coming back out and playing Stanford Cardinal football, which is mistake-free, which is tough and physical and playmaking. And that's what our guys did in the second half.
Coach, you're in your inaugural season, you're 6-0. Every coach at the beginning of the season talk about wanting to be undefeated. You guys are there. Can you smell the Pac-12 championship at this point?
Not at all. Not at all. We have 1,000 things to clean up, 1,000 things to get better at. And that's the kind of kids that we have. We got tough, smart, athletic kids that want to be great. And we're not there yet. We've got to get better.
All right, Coach, thank you. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks.
Well, what Stanford is 4-0 in the Pac-12 North. And they've turned the corner halfway through the season. Now they're geared to get into that meaningful second half, which for them will begin next Saturday night with Washington 5-1, their first big game of the year. College football Versus continues next Saturday. Boise State hosts Air Force, 3:30 Eastern, right here on Versus. Now for Glenn Parker, Akbar Baja-Biamila, and our entire Versus crew, I'm Ted Robinson. Thanks for joining us from Pullman, and stay with us from New York. We'll cover our college football postgame report after these messages.